Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
This world is so chaotic. This was an exclamation that Luo Wei couldn't help but utter after traveling to neon-lit Tokyo. Yes, Luo Wei is a time traveler. Just 3 days ago, he was an ordinary office worker, a dutiful laborer, planning to return to work after his holiday. However, when he was still more than 10 meters away from the company, he suddenly saw a vase fall from the sky and hit the child in front of him. The child was a 13 or 14-year-old junior high school student, a time when life is in full bloom. On a whim, Luo Wei rushed forward and shoved the child away. I originally thought that with my agility, I could push the children away and avoid the vase falling from the sky. But Luo soon realized that he seemed to have overestimated himself and underestimated how quickly the vase was falling. But as he stepped forward and shoved the child aside, the vase came crashing down just as he was about to dodge it. It hit Luo Wei squarely on the forehead. Luo Wei's vision went black and he knew nothing more. When he opened his eyes again, he had already traveled through time. The world he traveled to was a parallel world of Tokyo. Actually, it can't be called a parallel world Tokyo. It should be called an anime world Tokyo. Because Tokyo in this world has super large conglomerates like Shinomiya, Shichijo, Nagazaka, Suzuki, and Sanzanin, as well as schools like Toyonosaki, Sabuhai, Hikaru, Tatsuki Academy, Taiten Academy, and Seigaku. Without a doubt, this is a crossover anime world. The problem is this world is just too much of a crossover. It not only stitched together a bunch of slice-of-life anime but also a bunch of other things. With a quick online search, Luo Wei discovered some remarkable things. There is a ukiyo-e town in Tokyo. There's a big shot in the Metropolitan Police Department named Soakairo Yagami. There is a very effective shrine online called Higurashi Shrine. There is a popular male celebrity on TV named Shuichi Natori. There is also a tokoname city near Tokyo. And a city that claims to have technology decades ahead of our time, a city dedicated to training superpowered individuals. Academy City. In modern times, there has even been a strange life form called demihuman. Good heavens, this world is in complete chaos. And that's not all. Other places besides Tokyo are no less impressive. There is a famous raccoon city in America, and what's even more interesting is that there is a silent hill nearby. The renowned Umbrella Corporation even has a branch office in Tokyo. There is a special gang in New York called the Bigfoot Gang. San Francisco also has a special gang called the Mafia. There was also a powerful empire in Great Britain that swept across most of Europe, called the Holy Britannian Empire. It is said that the current emperor is Charles di Britannia, the 98th emperor of the Holy Britannian Empire. There is also an international terrorist organization called Mithril, which is opposing the Britannian Empire. In addition, there are some countries in Europe that I haven't actually visited. For example, the Kingdom of Familian, the Kingdom of Aldikia, and the Principality of Ordiaru, etc. This is only what Luo Wei discovered. He simply doesn't dare to imagine how many more cases he hasn't uncovered. The waters of this world are truly too deep. It is utterly unfathomable. When Lo uncovered the truth about this world, everyone was stunned. Okay, so this is how you play it. Since that's the case, then don't blame me for using cheats. Luo Wei was, after all, a time traveler. How could he not have any special abilities? His cheat is a system, but this system has not yet been fully loaded, so for the 3 days since he transmigrated, Luo Wei has not dared to step out of the door of his house. Because his predecessor died a truly tragic death. Luo Wei's predecessor was an ordinary high school student. This is not an exaggeration, because the person he transmigrated into was indeed a high school student. It's a very ordinary kind, with no special features whatsoever. He was neither a bottom of his class nor a top student. He can't play basketball and he's not a famous detective, so he really was just a fairly ordinary high school student. If we had to pinpoint anything unusual about him, it would probably be his social status. The person Luo Wei transmigrated into was also named Luo Wei. Although he was studying in Tokyo, he was not a local. Instead, they were international students from a major Eastern country. But just 3 days ago, the original body died a terrible death, was devoured alive by a monster, and even its soul was completely eaten away. All that remained was a pool of blood and a finger. After the monster finished eating, it patted its behind and left. But unexpectedly, the monster revived as soon as it left. Using only a single finger beneath him, he managed to grow a complete body. That's really amazing. However, this also proves that the predecessor was a genuine demihuman. The problem is that although the original body was a demihuman and could be resurrected after death, there was only one soul. After his soul was devoured by the monster, although his body grew back, he became a vegetable. At that moment, Luo Wei transmigrated and entered the body of the original inhabitant, taking control of it. Knowing his current identity, Luo Wei didn't leave the house for 3 days, just in case he encountered the monster that ate him. The monster looked on and exclaimed, "What's going on, little brother? I ate you, how come you're alive again?" After a closer inspection, wow, it turns out you're actually a demi-human, little brother. That would be wonderful. What is this? It's practically an endless buffet. No matter what you eat, you can be resurrected. For a monster, that's simply amazing. Luo Wei alone can support a whole bunch of monsters. What monster would be willing to give up such a good buffet? So Luo Wei stayed at home for 3 whole days, almost eating all the food he had stored, but he didn't dare to go out. I've been waiting for something. System loading. 3 days have passed in the blink of an eye, and today, right now, the system is finally about to finish loading. Luo Wei sat on the sofa, watching the progress bar in his mind slowly advance with some unease. I can't help but feel uneasy. The main problem is that this world is too chaotic and terrifying. If the system loads and turns out to be an ordinary system, like a plagiarism system or a dating simulation system, then it's doomed. In the ordinary, everyday world, such a system would naturally be excellent. But the problem is this world is not ordinary. Therefore, Luo Wei hopes for a powerful system, preferably one that would make him not eat beef. Bite. Just then, a voice as beautiful as heavenly music rang in my mind. The system has finally finished loading. Dimensional Demon God System loaded. Dimensional Demon God System is unfolding. Dimensional Domain Distribution. Dimensional Domain Integration in progress. In an instant, Luo Wei felt as if a door had appeared inside his body, behind which lay a vast and bright world. A powerful force flowed continuously into Luo Wei's body through this door. At that moment, Luo Wei felt stronger than ever before. He is now terrifyingly powerful. Luo Wei was actually quite familiar with the dimensional demons. Before he traveled through time, he had also watched Marvel movies. Dimensional demons are special life forms in the Marvel universe. One after another, they were all big shots who had gained control over a dimension. The power of the entire dimension is controlled by the dimensional demons, who can use it at will. Isn't that scary? In the Marvel universe, the most well-known dimensional demigod is Dormammu, Doctor Strange's nemesis. He is the Lord of the Dark Dimension. Despite Dormammu's brief appearance in the movie Doctor Strange, where he was quickly defeated by Doctor Strange using the Time Stone and showed no real power or prestige, Dormammu's appearance was quite impressive. But Dormammu's strength is truly formidable. In the comics, Dormammu is one of the greatest mysterious entities in all dimensions of the Marvel multiverse, claiming that his power is equal to that of Odin or Zeus. One manifestation of this power is that he once dared to challenge Eternity, one of the 5 great gods. His many abilities include matter transformation, interdimensional teleportation, size and shape manipulation, elemental control, telepathy, creating artificial life, and enhancing others. Dormammu can summon the mystical energy of the entire dark dimension, as well as his own inherent power, and when he is the ruler, he commands his vast resources. This demonstrates Dormammu's power, but he is not the most powerful among the dimensional lords. There are dimensional lords even more powerful than Dormammu. For example, Saitorak, the ruler of the Crimson Universe. This one is even more heavyweight. Although it hasn't appeared in the cinematic universe yet, its strength is indeed top-notch, enough to easily defeat Dormammu. Saitorak is an omnipotent demon as long as he is in his own Crimson Universe. In the comics, he kidnapped Galactus and Doctor Strange, ignored the powers of the Infinity Stones, and defeated former gods, among other things. Distorting space and erasing time are nothing to them. The most famous battle was: someone obtained 1/5 of the Phoenix Force fragment and went to negotiate with the other party, only to be casually thrown out of the Crimson Universe. You must know that's the power of the Phoenix. The most fearsome being in the Marvel multiverse, whose passion can be transformed into the Phoenix's judgment to regenerate or destroy everything in the universe, even the universe itself. Although it was only 1/5 of a fragment, it was still a powerful explosion. However, he was easily driven away by Setalok. This shows how terrifying Setalok was. This Crimson Overlord is truly powerful. Now, like Dormammu, the Dark Dimension Lord, and Saitorak, the Crimson Overlord, Lovey has become a true Dimension Lord or Dimensional Demon. This is really amazing. The next second, Luo Wei entered his own dimension through the door inside his body. Lovey's dimension can also be called the light dimension, which is the exact opposite of Dormammu's dark dimension. The entire dimension was surrounded by light, and there was nothing else besides the light. It was just a vast expanse of white space. In addition, Lo Wei discovered something else. His dimension of light is too small. Saitorak is known as the Crimson Overlord, and his Crimson Dimension can even be called the Crimson Universe. Dormammu is a Dark Lord whose head, formed using dark power, is comparable in size to the Earth. And what about Loi's dimension? He calculated that it was only the size of a planet. Luo Wei estimated that among all dimensions, his own dimension was tiny. Even so, Lovey is still a dimensional lord. In terms of rank, he is on par with Dormammu and Setorak. The other party is a dimensional lord, and so is he. However, in terms of strength, Luo Wei is no match for either of them. Either of them could easily defeat Luo Wei. However, Lo Wei didn't care about any of that. Being able to become a dimensional lord is already a great blessing for Lovey. Moreover, a dimension the size of a planet is already quite large for Lowy. Moreover, within this dimension, Lovey is an absolute deity, and no one can contend with him within the dimension of light. In addition, the dimension of light also endowed Lovey with terrifying power, allowing him to rise to the top in one fell swoop. Now, Luo Wei still has enough courage to leave his home if he encounters the monster that ate his former self again. Luo Wei could crush someone with a single finger. This is the power of the dimensional demon. However, before that, Lovey planned to modify his light dimension. After all, this dimension of light is too monotonous. There is nothing but light. Thus, under Lowy's modifications, the dimension of light quickly underwent tremendous changes. Now, this dimension not only has an atmosphere, water sources, and land, but also grasslands and hills. Lovey even built himself a luxurious palace on the vast grasslands. Now the whole dimension looks much better. You must know that he is now a dimensional lord, an omnipotent god within the dimension of light. Transforming a dimension is incredibly easy. The only drawback is that there is no sun in the dimension of light. Therefore, in the dimension of light, there is no distinction between day and night. It is daytime 24 hours a day because the entire dimension is enveloped by a layer of white light. There will never be night. Of course, the current modifications are only the most basic ones. In the coming period, Lowy planned to carry out a thorough transformation of the light dimension. However, that's not something that can be accomplished in a day or two. Fortunately, Lovey didn't care about time, because after becoming a dimensional demon god, time had no meaning for Lovey. As long as this dimension doesn't collapse, Lo will not die. Of course, Lowy also knew that Rome wasn't built in a day, so he plans to set aside some time each day to modify the light dimension. At other times, eat, drink, and play as you please, never deprive yourself of anything. Besides that, Lo had another very important thing to do, that is to avenge the predecessor. His predecessor was eaten by a monster, and now that Luo Wei has taken over his predecessor's body, he naturally wants to avenge him. This is called severing the cause and effect. Only by severing this causal link can Luo Wei use his former body with a clear conscience, live a good life in this world, and enjoy life to the fullest. With that thought in mind, Luo Wei decisively left the dimension of light and returned to the real world. Ding dong. Just then, by sheer coincidence, a doorbell rang at the perfect moment. Luo Wei paused for a moment, walked to the entrance, and asked, "Who is it?" Then, a soft, pleasant voice rang out. "Excuse me, are you Luo Wei?" "I'm your homeroom teacher, and I'm here for a home visit." Head teacher? Luo Wei racked his brains and soon remembered his homeroom teacher. What's even more interesting is that this homeroom teacher is not some nobody, nor is she a popular character like Hiratsuka Shizuka or Kurisu Mafuyu. Of course, it was very popular in the past. She is Sawako Yamanaka, the advisor of the Light Music Club in K-On! However, in this crossover anime world, Sawako Yamanaka did not join Sakuragyaka High School in the story. Instead, he joined another school, the private Sakuragi Academy. Doesn't this school seem familiar? That's right, it's the private Sakuragi Academy that appeared in the Dirty Joke Student Council episode. In the original storyline of the Dirty Joke Student Council, the private Sakuragi Academy High School, which was founded 50 years ago, was originally a traditional girls' high school, but it was converted into a co-educational school due to the impact of the declining birth rate. In this world, the private Sakura Academy has followed the same old path. Lo Wei's predecessor joined the private Sakura Academy in the same year that the school was converted to a co-educational institution, and he became one of them. It's also worth mentioning that several of the main female characters in K-On! Actually attend the private Sakuragi Academy. Luo Wei's predecessor and one of the main characters, Akiyama Mio, were actually classmates. With that thought in mind, Luo Wei opened the door to the room. Sure enough, a beautiful woman wearing glasses, a uniform, and dressed very maturely stood at the door. This is Sawako Yamanaka. Seeing Luo Wei open the door, Yamanaka Sawako smiled slightly. Luo Wei, right? Won't you invite your teacher in and have a seat? Luo Wei suddenly realized, nodded, and stepped aside. Please come in, teacher. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Sawako Yamanaka stepped in, passed through the entryway, entered the living room, glanced back at Luo Wei and asked, Teacher, may I sit down? Please sit down. Sawako Yamanaka smiled and sat down on the sofa, then patted the seat next to her and said, Come sit down too, Luo Wei. Without standing on ceremony, Luo Wei walked over and sat down. Teacher, what brings you here today? Sawako Yamanaka glanced at Luo Wei cautiously and said, If I remember correctly, Luo Wei, you should be an international student, right? That's right, Ro admitted. Sawako Yamanaka asked, So have you encountered any difficulties? Why do you ask that? Luo Wei asked, somewhat curious. Since you haven't been to school for 3 days, I was wondering if you've encountered any trouble studying abroad alone. If so, could you talk to the teacher about it? Sawako Yamanaka revealed a hint of maternal smile. Although the teacher is not a big shot, he has accumulated a lot of knowledge and experience over the years of schooling. If you encounter any trouble, Luo Wei, perhaps the teacher can help you. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei was taken aback, not expecting that Sawako Yamanaka would think that way. Teacher, you are such a good person. Praised by Luo Wei, Yamanaka Sawako smiled even more happily and quickly waved her hand, saying, I wouldn't dare say I'm a good person, but I just want to try my best to be a responsible teacher. After all, Luo Wei, you are my student. At this point, Sawako Yamanaka paused for a moment, then asked, So can you tell me about the trouble you've encountered? Luo Wei snapped out of his reverie and said with a smile, To be honest, teacher, I did encounter a little trouble these past few days, but it's been resolved now. I can go back to school the day after tomorrow, so please don't worry, teacher. Why the day after tomorrow? Because today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, and the day after tomorrow is the first day of school. Really? Sawako Yamanaka looked at Luo Wei seriously, as if trying to figure out whether Luo Wei was lying. It's true. Luo Wei met his gaze calmly. He wasn't lying. Although the monster that ate his predecessor hadn't been found yet, in Luo Wei's eyes, that monster was already a dead man. Seeing Luo Wei's unwavering gaze, Yamanaka Sawako breathed a sigh of relief. That's great, Luo Wei. I'll be waiting for you at school the day after tomorrow. Don't be late. Don't worry, teacher, it won't happen, Luo Wei said confidently. Although Sawako Yamanaka didn't offer any real help, Luo Wei acknowledged her desire to assist. This is indeed a good teacher. Luo Wei has always respected such a good person. After confirming that Luo Wei was all right, Yamanaka Sawako gave him a few more instructions before getting up and leaving. Luo Wei escorted him to the door, watched him leave, then returned to his room, changed his clothes, and left his home. The purpose of going out was naturally to find the monster that had devoured his former self. The memories of this monster's past are unclear. All I know is that it is an extremely ferocious monster. The original owner of this body didn't know exactly what kind of monster it was, only that it was a monster that liked to eat people. Luo Wei was at a loss for words. There was no way around it. The previous life's death was just too painful, and the previous life subconsciously forgot those details. Therefore, the memories that Luo Wei inherited from his predecessor were actually incomplete. The closer a memory is to death, the more fragmented it becomes. So much so that even Luo Wei himself didn't know which monster had killed his predecessor. Fortunately, although the original body forgot the memory of death, it remembered the voice of the monster, or rather, its tone of voice. Therefore, Luo Wei was confident that he could recognize the monster as soon as he heard that voice. Therefore, Luo Wei planned to go out this time to ask the local monsters which monsters in Tokyo like to eat people. You can go to them one by one, and you will eventually find the monster that ate your former self. So, Luo Wei's first stop was to visit the monster organization in Ukiyo-e town. Those who have watched Nura, Rise of the Yakai Clan, know what kind of yakai organizations exist in Ukiyo-e town. Nura Clan. In the anime Nura, Rise of the Yakai Clan, the Nura clan is the largest yakai faction in East Japan, with more than 70 factions and a total of over 10,000 yakai. Its supreme commander is known as the Lord of Demons and Monsters. Even in this chaotic world, the Nura clan, though no longer possessing the immense power they had in the original story, should not be underestimated. Finding a man-eating monster for yourself shouldn't be too difficult. As for whether the Nura clan was willing to help him, Lo was not worried that they would refuse. After all, having become a dimensional demon god, I have every right to tell the Nura clan, I don't eat beef. The Nura clan has to help with this, whether they want to or not. That's just how domineering Lo Wei is. Luo Wei has only been in this world for 3 days, but no one knows how Luo Wei got through those 3 days. During these 3 days, Luo Wei was constantly afraid, terrified, and panicked, fearing that the monster that devoured his former self might turn around and kill him, only to find that he was still alive and discover his secret as a demihuman. Then they captured themselves and used them as food reserves. Even when he was sleeping, Luo Wei would be awakened by these nightmares again and again. Now that he has awakened the system and ascended to become a dimensional demon god, he naturally has to unleash all the fear, anger, and resentment lurking in his heart. A monster that eats your whole body is the best target for venting your anger. No matter who the other person is or what their background is, he's determined to kill them. Even Jesus couldn't keep them, as Loey said. Therefore, in order to find this monster, Luo Wei doesn't mind being a bit domineering and tyrannical. He possesses this power not to reason with others, but to make others reason with him. So Lo Wei went out and headed towards Ukiyoe town. This was the first time Luo Wei had gone out since arriving in this world, and the first time he had seriously looked at this world. As a result, Lo Wei was surprised to find that the world was more chaotic, more bizarre, and more unbelievable than he had imagined. In broad daylight, he actually saw one evil spirit after another walking brazenly on the street. These evil spirits showed no fear of the sun overhead, haunting one passerby after another, greedily staring at them and repeatedly questioning them. You can see me, you can see me. Goodness, this smell is way too strong. Could this world also contain a visible girl? That's F***G ridiculous. Originally, Lovis didn't intend to pay any attention to these messy evil spirits. After all, there are just too many of these things. They can be found on every street. Moreover, these evil spirits are not actually very harmful. Due to certain rules, as long as passersby cannot see them, they cannot harm them, not counting a certain unfortunate high school girl with top-tier yin-yang eyes. Yatsuya Miko, you might as well just call me out by name. But to Luo Wei's surprise, instead of bothering these evil spirits, they came after him. Once a malevolent spirit that was harassing a passerby was sure that the person couldn't see it, it left, losing interest. Then he turned his attention to Luo Wei, his body emanating black energy, and approached Luo Wei. You can see me, you can see me. I work from 8 a.m. Luo Wei immediately wanted to curse. I didn't even bother to cause you any trouble and you dare to come looking for trouble with me. What audacity, I think you're tired of living. Seeing this, Luo Wei immediately threw a heavy punch with wisps of light energy swirling around his fist. With a single punch, a muffled thud was heard, and the evil spirit was instantly obliterated by Luo Wei. The black aura was like snowflakes encountering sunlight or butter falling into a hot pan. It melted away completely in an instant, disappearing without a trace. However, to Luo Wei's surprise, his punch seemed to have stirred up a hornet's nest. Upon seeing this, the surrounding evil spirits did not flee but instead swarmed over. You can see me, you can see me. The evil spirits kept muttering, their eyes filled with greed and lust as they looked at Ro. Several evil spirits even pounced on him, intending to devour him. Luo Wei was speechless. Did these guys have no brains? Didn't you see how the evil spirit died? They actually dared to attack me. They have backbone, no, they have courage. Seeing this, Luo Wei simply released several beams of light power. Under Luo Wei's control, these beams of light power transformed into semi-transparent fists which slammed into the group of evil spirits. Puff, 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 puff. A series of muffled thuds followed, and the evil spirits surrounding Luo Wei were instantly blasted apart by him. Before they could even scream, their souls were scattered. Dead beyond dead. At the same time, Lovey was surprised to find that after the group of evil spirits died, an invisible force fed back into Lovey's body. Then it was absorbed by the light dimension, and the power of the light dimension actually increased slightly. It really is just a little bit. To give an example, if the power of the light dimension is roughly 100 million. So, after Luo Wei killed those evil spirits, the power of the light dimension increased slightly. It's now 100 million and a little over 100 million. Although it was very, very small, so small that Luo Wei could hardly notice it, it was only almost. In fact, Lovey noticed that the power of the light dimension had indeed increased. What's going on here? Could it be that I can kill monsters and become stronger? If that's the case, it's not necessarily a good thing. These evil spirits are too weak. I killed more than a dozen evil spirits, but I only gained a little bit of power. No wonder Ro felt nothing when he killed the first evil spirit. Lo didn't even have the energy to hunt down the evil spirits. Forget it, it's more important to find the monster that ate my former self. As long as this monster lives, Luo Wei will feel uneasy. Only by killing him will Luo Wei feel at ease. After dealing with the evil spirit that had been haunting him, Lovey quickly arrived in Ukiyoe town. Upon entering Ukiyoe town, Lovey quickly discovered that this place was different from other places. There are very few evil spirits inside Ukiyoe town. Not even a single evil spirit can be seen. After turning several corners, Lo finally spotted a lone evil spirit. But before he could make a move, a crow carrying the weapons descended from the sky. Wielding his weapon, he instantly killed the evil spirit. At the same time, Luo Wei also recognized the crow holding a weapon and wearing armor as the legendary monster Karasu Tengu. No wonder you can't see these evil spirits in Ukiyoe town. It turns out that there are yakai, supernatural beings, cleaning up these evil spirits that invaded Ukiyoe town. As for the origins of these monsters, Lo Wei knew all too well. Ukiyoe town was the headquarters of the Nura clan. Unless they've lost their minds, other yakai won't help the Nura clan clear out the evil spirits here. Therefore, this Tengu is definitely a member of the Nura clan. Luo Wei, who had watched the anime, also knew that there was indeed a group of Tengu crows within the Nura clan. He was a subordinate of the Nura clan's commander-in-chief. After clearing away the evil spirits, the Tengu flapped its wings and soared into the sky, disappearing from Lovey's sight in the blink of an eye. He didn't even glance at Luo Wei. In his understanding, unless he deliberately reveals himself, ordinary people cannot see him. But he didn't know that Lo Wei was no ordinary person. It is a dimensional demon. After watching the Tengu leave, Luo Wei did not chase after it because he had not come to see the Tengu today. They came to see the commander-in-chief of the Nura clan. It took only a little time for Lo to find the Nura clan's headquarters in Ukiyoe town. The main problem is that the aura of a demon is too obvious. In Ukiyoe town, you can find the Nura clan's headquarters by looking for the place with the strongest demonic aura. After all, this place is not just a gathering of one or two monsters, but dozens or even hundreds of them. Their demonic energy is almost condensing into dark clouds in the sky. How could it not be obvious? Lovey found the Nura clan, where two yakai were standing guard at the entrance. This is quite different from the original story, because Luo Wei remembers that there were no monsters guarding the gate in the original story. But now we have it. The two monsters did not reveal their true forms, but instead transformed into human beings dressed in black suits and wearing sunglasses, with the Nura clan sign hanging at the entrance. An uninformed person might mistake this place for a Yakuza organization. Only those in the know understand that this is the territory of monsters. Seeing Loki walking straight toward the Nura clan's gate, the two gatekeeper yakai exchanged a glance, both seeing the surprise in each other's eyes. This is the territory of monsters. Spells have already been cast to drive away any bystanders. Ordinary humans could not possibly appear here. The people who appear here are not ordinary humans. One of the gatekeeper monsters stepped forward and blocked Luo Wei's path. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed here. Who are you? Luo Wei said. I've come here to see your commander-in-chief. Please inform him of my arrival. The monster raised an eyebrow and asked, do you have an agreement with our commander-in-chief? Luo Wei shook his head. The monster said, then are you a friend of our commander-in-chief? Lo shook his head again. The monster sighed and said, this isn't it, that isn't it either. I advise you to leave. This place isn't suitable for someone like you. Lo Wei laughed and walked past the gatekeeper monster into the building. Stop! The gatekeeper monster roared in anger, raising his hand to grab Luo Wei. But before his right hand could even touch Luo Wei, he was blasted away by a powerful force of light. Upon seeing this, the other monster instinctively roared, removed its disguise, and reverted to its original form. It's a flying barbarian. Suddenly, his neck stretched out incredibly long, and he opened his gaping maw to bite down on Luo Wei's neck. Bump. The next second, this guy also flew out, smashing open the Nura clan's gate with a bang, and flew in like a cannonball, landing in the courtyard. The loud noise immediately alarmed the entire Nura clan. As Lo passed through the gate and entered the Nura clan, monsters appeared from all directions. Several Tengu crows fell from the sky, Natokun crawled out from the corner, Kappa leaped out of the pond in the yard, and Masoheim and Yukiana rushed out from the corner of the wall. In an instant, monsters appeared from both the sky and the ground, surrounding Luo Wei. Everyone looked at this unexpected, uninvited guest with displeasure. Who are you? The headless ghost squeezed out from the group of monsters, walked into the courtyard, helped up the flying head that Luo Wei had blasted away, and looked at Luo Wei coldly. The hostility in his eyes was undisguised. Luo Wei remained remarkably calm as he looked at the monsters that surrounded him. Summon your commander-in-chief. Seeing Luo Wei's irrelevant and domineering answer, the headless ghost slowly narrowed its eyes, revealing a hint of murderous intent, just as he was about to make his move. Oh dear, what a rude guest. A voice came from behind the monster circle. Upon hearing this voice, the monsters surrounding Lovey retreated to both sides like Moses parting the sea, making way for a passage. A dashing, carefree man with long jet-black hair, dressed in a kimono, tall and with an air of nonchalance, walked out from the middle of the parted road. The headless ghost nodded slightly in greeting when it saw the man. General. A hint of surprise flashed in Luo Wei's eyes, because the libertine in front of him was neither Nura, the first general of the Nura clan, nor Rikuo, the third general. He is Nura's son and Rikuo's father. In the original storyline, he was the strongest member of the Nura family who should have died at the hands of Yamabuki Atome, the second leader of the Nura clan, Nura. Although Nura is known as the Lord of Demons and Monsters in the original story, it was not Nura who truly brought the Nura clan to its peak. Instead, it was this dashing and carefree playboy in front of him. At his peak, he destroyed the Edo Hyakumonogatari group led by Yamamoto Goraziman and killed Hagoromo Gitsune multiple times during the war, forcing Abe no Seimei, who was in hell at the time, to join forces with Yamamoto Goraziman to eliminate Rihan. I never imagined that in this chaotic world. Rihan Nura didn't die, instead he's still alive and continues to serve as the commander-in-chief of the Nura clan. That's surprising, that's all. Whether it's Nura Rihan or Nura, Lo doesn't consider them his match, including the entire Nura clan. Rihan Nura crossed his arms, closed his right eye, and glanced sideways at Loki. This rude guest, what brings you here? Although his words were polite, they were quite cold. Rather than asking about Luo Wei's purpose, it wasn't that they wanted Luo Wei to give them an explanation. Luo Wei understood but didn't care. Instead, he calmly said, "Not long ago I was eaten by a monster. This monster had a good appetite and ate me down to just one finger." Nura Rihan paused for a moment. The other monsters were also somewhat surprised. What did this mean? Lovey continued. Because I am a demihuman, I came back to life and by chance I gained great power and then I came to find your Nura clan. Rihan Nura's expression turned serious. Does the guest mean that the yokai that ate you was from the Nura clan? That's impossible. Before Luo Wei could speak, the headless demon categorically denied it, saying, "The Supreme Commander has repeatedly emphasized that the Nura clan's monsters can eat monsters, but they are absolutely not allowed to eat humans. I don't believe anyone would dare disobey the general's orders." Rihan Nura patted the headless demon on the shoulder, signaling it to calm down. "As you can see, sir, our Nura clan's yokai stopped eating people a long time ago." Luo Wei said expressionlessly, "That's just your side of the story. If you want to prove your innocence, find all the man-eating monsters in Tokyo and bring them to me." Nura Rihan was taken aback for a moment, then laughed. "I see." Rihan Nura said with a smile, "The guest wants to use the power of our Nura clan to help you find the yokai that ate you, right?" When Luo Wei saw that his purpose had been exposed, a hint of embarrassment flashed across his face, but he quickly suppressed it. Tusk, still not thick-skinned enough. This slight embarrassment was clearly seen by Nura Rihan, the headless demon, and others. "You want to use our Nura clan to help you find someone, and you're still so arrogant." The headless demon was somewhat amused and said, "You really don't take the Nura clan seriously." Seeing this, Luo Wei stopped hiding it and said, "Because I was eaten by a monster not long ago, I inevitably took my anger out on you monsters. I admit that what I did was not fair. That's not enough. I still hope that your Nura clan can help me find this monster." "Why should I?" The headless ghost said with a displeased expression. "It's not just headless ghosts, but all other monsters are like that." A human joined the Nura clan, and although he was asking for a favor, he acted arrogantly and condescendingly. Anyone would be unhappy if it were them. Luo Wei spread his hands and said calmly, "If you ask why, it's probably because I'm better than you." How arrogant. The headless demon could no longer contain his rage and charged towards Lai Liuhui like an arrow released from a bow. Today, he was going to show this guy the power of the Nura clan. Bump! The headless ghost that had rushed up flew back at an even faster speed. If Nura Rihan hadn't intervened in time and captured him, the headless demon might have smashed through the house behind him. The sudden scene caused an uproar among all the monsters present. The headless ghost's fighting strength is definitely not weak among them. In fact, it can be said to be one of the strongest. As a result, he couldn't even withstand a single move from his opponent. Most of the monsters didn't even see how the headless demon was defeated. The headless demon collapsed into Nura Rihan's arms, his face pale, and immediately fell into a coma. Nura Rihan's expression changed instantly, turning ashen. He unleashed a torrent of demonic energy and terrifying killing intent, and an invisible pressure descended upon him. Even the air became viscous under the influence of this demonic aura. Many of the monsters even began to breathe rapidly. At that moment, all the demons knew that the Grand General was enraged. Rihan Nura opened his tightly closed right eye, staring intently at Lovey, and slowly drew the weapon he always carried. This guest really doesn't take our Nura clan seriously. Luo Wei nodded and said, "You're right, I really didn't take the Nura clan seriously." As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful force of light erupted from his body, sweeping across the entire Nura clan. Under the influence of this force, Nura Rihan's demonic aura was swept away in an instant, like snow in spring. Even he was suppressed by this power of light. Some of the weaker monsters didn't even have the ability to resist. They collapsed to the ground with thuds and fell into a coma. Only a few powerful monsters could hold out against the odds. But under this powerful force of light, it was like a sailboat in a raging storm, in danger of capsizing at any moment. "General, General." A look of disbelief flashed across Nura Rihan's eyes as he stared incredulously at his companions lying on the ground around him. This is the Nura clan that he's so proud of. With the help of their companions, Nura Rihan almost swept away most of the yokai, becoming the most powerful yokai organization in all of Japan. Yet this powerful organization is now facing the danger of annihilation in its own stronghold. "What a joke, everyone, stand behind me." Rihan Nura roared, unleashing an even more powerful demonic aura to counter Lobai's power of light. But the effect was minimal, because Lovey's power of light was like a nemesis to monsters. To fight against the power of light, Nura Rihan would need to give up 120% or even 200% of his power. But at this moment, Rihan Nura dared not be negligent and mobilized all his forces to fight against Lobai's power of light. Finally, they've given the suppressed monsters a chance. Taking advantage of this opportunity, a large number of yokai gathered behind Nura Rihan. Demons stripped, Nura Rihan gritted his teeth and uttered a sentence which the yokai understood, and they instantly entrusted their power to him. Rihan Nura's aura surged like a volcanic eruption. In the blink of an eye, it reached a terrifying level. This is Nura Rihan's signature move. As a half-demon, Rihan Nura not only inherited the unique Mirror of Still Water and Mirror Flower Water Moon of the Nura Rihan clan, but can also use his own abilities to impersonate others. At the same time, in order to make up for the shortcomings of half-demon, the ghost entanglement technique was developed. The demon binding technique is a technique used in conjunction with other demons. The yokai bound their power to Nura Rihan, allowing him to break through his current limits and enter a completely new realm. Rihan Nura was able to preserve the Nura clan during a chaotic era and lead it to its peak, making it the largest yokai organization in Japan. It all comes down to this technique of haunting. Enemies that were previously insurmountable can now be easily defeated with this ghost entanglement technique. Countless powerful monsters have fallen victim to this move. In order to defeat the formidable enemy Lovey today, Nura Rihan absorbed a large amount of yokai power in one go. This is something I never dared to do before. The more power a monster absorbs, the harder it is to control, and it might even go berserk. But now, Rihan Nura doesn't care about all that anymore. The surging demonic energy shot straight into the sky and spread continuously to the surrounding area, plunging the entire Ukiyo-e town into darkness. An eerie aura, obscuring the sky and blocking out the sun, obscured the sun. It was as if daytime had suddenly turned into night. Nura Rihan took a deep breath, absorbing all the demonic energy, and the sky returned to daytime from night. An unprecedented power gathered within him, making him feel an overwhelming sense of strength. But this also caused me to experience extreme pain. His body felt like it was about to split open, and his face was contorted with pain. If he didn't release this power, he had no doubt that he would be blown apart by this powerful force. The next second, he swung his weapon and slashed fiercely at Luo Wei. The condensed, ultimate power slashed towards Luo Wei at an astonishing speed. With this one strike, not only would Ukiyo-e town be cleaved in two, but half of Tokyo would be split in two. However, in the face of this powerful force, Luo Wei merely extended one finger. In an instant, that powerful force crumbled and vanished into thin air. It was as if it had never existed. The surging demonic energy crumbled instantly in the face of Luo Wei's power of light, vanishing without a trace, as if nothing had happened. Rihan Nura stared in disbelief at the scene before dropping his weapon to the ground with a thud. "It's too big." The gap between the two people is just too big. That attack just now was a powerful strike he unleashed at the risk of his body being bursting open. It was the pinnacle of his life. He had lived for hundreds of years and had never unleashed such a terrifying attack. However, this incredibly fierce attack was dealt with by the opponent with just one finger. Inconceivable, unbelievable, and utterly absurd. Is this guy named Luo Wei really human? Can we talk properly now? Luo Wei looked at Nura with a smile and said, while withdrawing his powerful light energy and turning back into the harmless, ordinary person he had been before. Seeing that Roy didn't intend to kill him, Nura subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. Unable to support his exhausted body any longer, he plopped down on the ground. Right now, he only feels intense pain all over his body. Although that attack was delivered, it still caused significant damage to his body. Seeing this, Lovey unleashed another burst of light, enveloping Nura and the other yokai of the Nura clan. Nura immediately felt a warm, comforting power envelop him, and his wounds healed rapidly at a visible speed, his previously weak body recovering in an instant. Powerful light can bring destruction, while gentle light can bring healing. Whether it's destruction or healing depends on Lo Wei's decision. You really are a monster. Once recovered, Nura gave a bitter smile, completely surrendering and lowering his proud head. What could he do? Even with the combined strength of the Nura clan, they couldn't defeat the opponent. If they didn't back down, were they really going to let the opponent wipe out the entire Nura clan? He's not an idiot. The other monsters, once they recovered, looked at Luo Wei with the same fear and awe. That's just the nature of monsters. If you have the biggest fist, I'll submit to you. Nura used this method to subdue the monsters one by one, thus creating his own unique night parade of 100 demons. Taking a deep breath, Nura got up from the ground and stood in front of Lobai. The Nura clan will do as you say and help you find the monster that ate you. However, please tell me what this monster looks like and what its characteristics are. Luo Wei shook his head and said, I don't know, huh. Not only Nura, but all the other yokai in the Nura clan were completely bewildered. Luo Wei said, back then I was just an ordinary person. The experience of being eaten was too painful and I subconsciously forgot about the experience. However, I still remember the voice of that monster. Therefore, I need your Nura clan to capture all the man-eating yokai within the Tokyo area. I need to check them one by one. Nura said with a wry smile, this is going to be a big job. So you must refuse. No, I agree. Nura isn't stupid. If he refuses, he'll likely get beaten up by the monster in front of him. It's better to just agree. Once we find this monster, it won't be too late to properly deal with it. If it weren't for him, the Nura clan wouldn't be in this predicament today. That monster really deserves to die. But then again, what kind of extraordinary encounter could allow an ordinary human to rise to the top in one step and become an unprecedentedly powerful monster capable of easily defeating the Nura clan? Nura was completely baffled. Even after Lo left the Nura clan, he was still thinking about this question. Not long after, Nura returned from shopping outside. Oh, you look like you're having a hard time. You're back, Dad. Nura gave a wry smile. I've disgraced the Nura clan. Nura calmly said, I've already heard the details from the headless demon. There's nothing we can do when we encounter monsters like that. The Nura clan is powerful, but they are not invincible. Perhaps today's defeat is a good thing for us. Ever since the Nura clan dominated Tokyo, both the Nura clan and your strength have stagnated. Do you now have the motivation to work hard? Nura looked up, and his resolute eyes betrayed everything. Once is enough. I absolutely do not want to experience this a second time. Nura smiled with satisfaction. This was indeed his exceptionally talented son. He may seem like a carefree playboy, but he's more reliable than anyone else when it matters. He believed that after this experience, his son's abilities would make another leap forward. A cunning person can fail, but they must never give up. Father. Just then, Nura asked the question that had been bothering him. What kind of experience do you think could allow an ordinary person to rise to the top and become a monster that crushes our Nura clan? Nura lit his pipe, took a puff, and slowly said, this world is vast and anything unbelievable can happen. However, there are very few things that can make someone rise to the top in one step. As far as I know, only those demon kings who stand at the top have such an extraordinary encounter. Nura suddenly realized, you mean to kill a god? Be careful what you say. Before Nura could finish speaking, Nura stopped his foolish son. Nura immediately shut his mouth. Some things were not for yokai like them to discuss. After all, that kind of monster was truly terrifying. After a while, Nura said, you need to take this matter seriously. Nura Rihan nodded. Just then the door to the room was pushed open and Mao Changji walked in. General, the people from the Yin-Yang Bureau have arrived. Leading them are Tenkai Daisen, one of the 12 divine generals, and Ikaruga Tsuchiman, one of the 12 heavenly generals. The arrival of the 12 divine generals and the 12 heavenly generals is quite a sight for our Nura clan, Nura Rihan said, puffing on his cigarette. Rihan Nura said, "It must be because of the demonic energy I just unleashed. Leave this to me, father." It's his own fault, so there's no reason for his father to take the blame. Nura Rihan nodded, having no intention of standing up for Nura Rihan, as his son was already capable of handling things on his own. At this time, Luo Wei was unaware that after he left the Nura clan, the members of the Nura clan were being interrogated by the Bureau of Onmyorio. But even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After leaving the Nura clan, Lo quickly left Ukiyoe town. Where should we go next? As he pondered this, Lo Wei wandered aimlessly through the streets. After entrusting the matter of the Yakai to the Nura clan, he no longer needed to worry about it because he trusted that the Nura clan would handle it well. They're a respectable organization in Tokyo after all. If they can't even catch a man-eating monster, they're just too useless. But according to Lo's memory, the Nura clan was not some useless organization. Under the leadership of the second Captain General Nura Rihan, they became terrifyingly powerful. Therefore, Luo Wei doesn't need to worry about that monster at all. He can just wait quietly for the outcome. Isn't this Luo Wei-kun? As Luo Wei was wandering aimlessly down the street, a voice suddenly came from behind him. Luo Wei stopped and turned around, where a familiar pretty face appeared before him. Mio Akiyama. She is a member of the private Sakuragi Academy Light Music Club and also the lead vocalist of the band, the famous Blue and White Bowl Girl. However, according to Luo Wei's memory, the current Blue and White Bowl incident does not seem to have occurred yet, so Akiyama Mio has not died yet. However, the person who called out to Luo Wei just now was not Akiyama Mio. Here. A familiar voice came from behind him. Luo Wei shifted his gaze away from Akiyama Mio's voice and locked it onto a cheerful girl standing next to Akiyama Mio. Tanakai Ritsu. Mio Akiyama's childhood friend is also Luo Wei's classmate and even his deskmate. She has short brown hair and uses a headband to hold up her bangs, revealing her forehead. Luo Wei had seen this kind of attire on another person, namely Suzuki Sonoko, the second daughter of the Suzuki Zaibatsu. However, when Sonoko Suzuki takes off her headband, her beauty level skyrockets. And Ritsu Tanaka seems to be the same way. Luo Wei remembered a scene in K-On! Where Ritsu Tanaka took off her headband and looked like a completely different person. This completely surprised the other girl in the band, Hirasawa Yui. Isn't that a coincidence? Seeing that Luo Wei finally turned his attention to her, Ritsu Tanaka put her hands on her hips and said with a smile, "I was the one who called you, but the first thing you saw was Mio-chan. You really do have Mio-chan on your mind all the time." Although Akiyama Mio was already used to Tanaka Ritsu's nonsense, she still blushed at this remark. A large amount of water vapor instantly appeared from her head, transforming her into a steam princess. "Ryu, shut up." He kept pounding Tanaka Ritsu's shoulders with both hands. Ouch, ouch. I'm sorry, it was me, Mio-chan." Ritsu Tanaka laughed as he begged Mio Akiyama for mercy. Akiyama Mio glared at the other party resentfully and then let Tanaka Ritsu go. Seeing this, Luo Wei couldn't help but sigh, "You two really have a good relationship." Akiyama Mio sighed, looking helpless. "It's just a karmic entanglement that's been going on since we were kids." Ritsu Tanaka asked curiously, "By the way, Luo Wei-kun, why haven't you come to school these past few days? Did you run into some trouble?" Luo Wei nodded. "There was a tiny bit of trouble, but it's been resolved and I can go to school on Monday." Ritsu Tanaka breathed a sigh of relief, placed his hand on his chest, and looked as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. That's good. Life would be much less fun without you as a dining companion." As if recalling something, a glistening drop of saliva trickled from the corner of Ritsu Tanaka's mouth. Seeing this, Akiyama Mio couldn't help but give her a disdainful look. Even so, she still took out her handkerchief and wiped away Ritsu Tanaka's drool. "You're exaggerating, Ritsu." Ritsu Tanaka retorted confidently, "You've also eaten Luo Wei-kun's cooking. Does that mean Luo Wei-kun's cooking isn't good, Mio-chan?" Akiyama Mio was speechless for a moment, then secretly glanced at Luo Wei and whispered, "It really is delicious." Upon hearing this, Luo Wei racked his brains and finally found an interesting memory from his predecessor's past. It turns out that the person in question was an international student from a major Eastern country who couldn't get used to Japanese cuisine. 1 or 2 meals are fine, but eating Japanese food every day is just too much. After all, habits formed over a decade or more cannot be changed overnight. Not to mention the cuisine of the Far Eastern superpower, which completely surpasses Japanese cuisine. So, after eating a Japanese meal related to the incident, the predecessor decided to prepare a bento box for himself. His classmate Ritsu Tanaka quickly discovered this. After learning that his predecessor had prepared Huxia food for him, Ritsu Tanaka begged and pleaded with Luo Wei to become his dining partner, and they would eat together every noon. As time went on, their relationship progressed rapidly. They would often call out to each other what food was in their lunchboxes. As Tanaka Ritsu's childhood friend, Akiyama Mio was quickly drawn into his life. Nowadays, the three of them often share their lunchboxes together. They're pretty good friends. Thinking of this, Luo Wei couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, never expecting that his predecessor actually had such abilities. You should know that Luo Wei can cook too. However, it is limited to simple dishes such as instant noodles and fried rice, and the taste is very average. They can't even cook a slightly responsible dish properly. The fact that the predecessor had this skill was already quite impressive. It was at least better than the current Luo Wei. Unfortunately, he died a very tragic death. But it doesn't matter, he will avenge his predecessor and will definitely not let the monster that ate him die too easily. Wow, your smile is so sinister. Just then, Ritsu Tanaka suddenly spoke up. Luo Wei paused for a moment, then touched his face after regaining his senses. Did I just laugh? Ritsu Tanaka nodded. Not only did he laugh, but he laughed in a really sinister way. You can ask Mio-chan if you don't believe me. Akiyama Mio stammered, unsure of what to say, because she also felt that Luo Wei's smile just now was not only sinister, but even terrifying. But she was too embarrassed to say anything bad about Luo Wei and was at a loss for what to do. However, at that moment, Ritsu Tanaka seemed to have thought of something and looked at Luo Wei with a suspicious expression. Hey you were smiling so sinisterly just now. Are you planning to make some weird dish to torture me? Luo Wei couldn't help but roll his eyes. Do you think I'm that boring? You never know. At this moment, Luo Wei finally couldn't hold back and slapped Tanaka Ritsu on the head with a chop. It hurt so much. Ritsu Tanaka rubbed his head, which was sore from being hit, and said with a righteous indignation, Luo Wei-kun, how dare you hit a girl on the head? Do you know that doing this will easily make you unable to find a girlfriend? It's not like I'll get a girlfriend if I don't knock, Luo Wei retorted dismissively. Ritsu Tanaka, what he said makes so much sense that I don't even know how to object. Akiyama Mio burst out laughing so hard she almost fell to the ground with tears in her eyes. Mio-chan, Luo Wei-kun bullied me. Serves him right. Akiyama Mio raised her hand to wipe away the tears from the corner of her eyes, showing no pity for her childhood friend. Tanaka Ritsu felt as if he had been stabbed in the chest. He instinctively took a few steps back and looked at Akiyama Mio in disbelief. Mio-chan, you don't love me anymore, I might as well just die. Mio Akiyama mimicked Luo Wei's movements, delivering a chop to the guy's head. Shut up, you drama queen, it hurts so much. Ritsu Tanaka covered his head, almost crying. Akiyama Mio used much more force than Luo Wei. As expected of her childhood friend, she showed no mercy in her attack. Luo Wei coughed, interrupting Ritsu Tanaka's performance, and asked with a smile, I haven't asked yet, were you two shopping today? Akiyama Mio nodded. Actually, we made plans to go to a music store to buy some parts today and also to see a concert. A concert? Whose concert? Luo Wei asked curiously. Tanaka Ritsu proudly puffed out his chest and said, Of course it's Hoshino Ai's concert, how about that? Aren't you envious and jealous? Ai Hoshino? Luo Wei grunted and said, That's a familiar name, I feel like I've heard it somewhere before. Now it was Tanaka Ritsu's turn to be dumbfounded. No way, you don't even know Hoshino Ai, are you even a Tokyoite? I'm an international student, thank you. Tanaka Ritsu, Akiyama Mio introduced from the side. Hoshino Ai is actually a member of the recently popular idol group B Kamachi. She debuted at the age of 12 and is now 19 years old. She even has more than 1 million fans on Twitter. Even if you say that, Luo Wei couldn't recall who Hoshino Ai was for a moment, so he asked, Do you have a picture of her? Of course. Ritsu Tanaka took out his phone, found a picture of Ai Hoshino, and placed it in front of Luo Wei. Well, this is Hoshino Ai. Upon closer inspection, Luo Wei realized that Hoshino Ai in the photo was indeed an impeccably dressed idol. The idol dress is mainly red and pink. The top is divided into 2 layers. The outer layer is decorated with 3 light blue stars, while the inner layer is sleeveless. A heart-shaped ornament with small wings is also worn on the yellow collar of the outer layer. The skirt hem is pink, dark pink, and yellow from the inside out. She wore a black corset around her waist, red gloves, and bright red over-the-knee boots. On the left side of her head, she wore a pale yellow rabbit hair clip with a smiling face, decorated with a red bow. But these weren't the things that surprised Ro the most. What surprised Lo Wei the most was that this Hoshino AI had long purple hair that reached her waist and star-like patterns in her purple eyes. It was these distinctive eyes that reminded Luo Wei of who Hoshino AI was. The idol in The Child I Pushed, the male protagonist's mother. Before transmigrating, Luo Wei had never actually watched the anime series My Child. There was no way around it. He was terrified by the previous work of the author Akasaka. The old thief's previous work, Kaguya-sama, Love is War, started off sweet and then went crazy, even going so far as to be abstract. He ruined a perfectly good piece of work. From then on, Lo Wei never read any of the old thief's other works. I didn't dare to watch. God knows if the child I'm promoting will continue to act crazy later on. However, he had seen photos of Hoshino AI, mainly because the anime was actually quite popular, although not as popular as Kaguya-sama, Love is War. There are tons of explanations and videos online about the relationship between The Child I Pushed. Lo Wei learned about Hoshino AI from these videos, and also knew that this idol would soon disappear from the public eye. Of course, in this crossover anime world, what kind of life will Hoshino AI have? Luo Wei didn't know. Maybe I'll get caught, maybe I won't, who knows. Anyway, Luo Wei wasn't a fan of Hoshino AI, and he hadn't even read the manga. I remember now, there really is such a person. I didn't expect you guys to be her fans. She's so cute, so hardworking, and so amazing, of course we're her fans. Ritsu Tanaka said with a smile, even nudging Mio Akiyama with her elbow. Right, Mio-chan? Akiyama Mio nodded, saying with admiration, Hoshino AI is really amazing, I wish I could be like her. Luo Wei laughed heartily and said, don't worry, Kiyoshin, you are no worse than anyone else. You will definitely have the opportunity to reach this level in the future, and so will Ritsu. Ritsu Tanaka puffed out his chest proudly, as if to say, you know how to talk. That's right, Mio-chan, one day in the future we will definitely be able to watch a concert at the Budokan. Don't forget to give me a VIP ticket when the time comes. Of course. Ritsu Tanaka put his hands on his hips and laughed triumphantly, as if he were going to hold a concert at the Budokan tomorrow. On the contrary, Akiyama Mio looked shy and at a loss. She was truly exasperated by Ritsu Tanaka's carefree personality. Didn't she see the strange looks the people around them were giving them? To stop Tanaka Ritsu from continuing her erratic behavior in the street, Akiyama Mio glanced at her phone and feigned a gasp of surprise. Oh no, there's not enough time. Let's hurry up and go. After saying that, he grabbed Tanaka Ritsu and dragged him away despite his resistance. He also said goodbye to Luo Wei, saying, see you Monday, Luo Wei. Luo Wei naturally noticed Akiyama Mio's shyness and helplessness, so he didn't stop her. He smiled and nodded, waving at the two of them. See you on Monday, Akiyama Ritsu. See you Monday. Tanaka Ritsu waved to Luo Wei and casually reminded him, don't forget the bento box. I want kung pao chicken, dry-fried potatoes, and hand-shredded cabbage. Luo Wei, this girl is quite the glutton, but thanks to her, Luo Wei already knows where to go next. Unlike his predecessor, Luo Wei actually didn't have a talent for cooking. However, he could hire a cook to prepare 3 meals a day for him. Coincidentally, this crossover anime world stitches together a bunch of messy things, including food wars. Soma. So Luo Wei plans to go to the Far Moon Academy to find himself a few qualified cooks. As for whether the candidate will be Megumi Tadakoro or Erina Nakiri. As I always say, only children make choices. As an adult, I want it all. It makes perfect sense for a dimensional demon god to find 2 followers. Dormammu has a bunch of followers, so naturally he should too. They're all dimensional demons, so why can't he have followers? That's unacceptable. So Luo Wei arrived at Tatsuki Academy in high spirits. Although it's Saturday and the gates of Tatsuki Academy are closed, that doesn't stop Lovey. If you can't even get through a regular gate, what kind of dimensional demon are you? Even a mage can manipulate the weather, telekinesis, teleportation, time travel, reality distortion, mental counterattack, energy reflection, time manipulation, magical energy beams, energy shaping, energy transfer, force field shields, flight, healing spells, apparition, body shape alteration, transformation. There's no reason why Luo Wei couldn't do it. Although this sorceress is Zatanna from the DC universe, her family is a magical family that has guarded the Orb of Truth for generations. But Lovey is a dimensional demon god. What Zuckerberg can do, Lo can do too. Therefore, Lo entered Tatsuki Academy with almost no effort. However, when Luo Wei entered the Far Moon Academy, he discovered that something was wrong with the academy. Because this academy is teeming with all sorts of evil spirits, even more so than the evil spirits on the streets. That's really interesting. A school that gathers more evil spirits than the outside world. This is not normal. Could there be something within Tatsuki Academy that has attracted these evil spirits? Luo Wei's eyes flickered and he suddenly became interested. He decided to take a look around and see what was wrong with the Tatsuki Academy and why it had attracted so many evil spirits. In order to observe the academy up close, Luo Wei even used his powerful mental abilities to hypnotize the teachers and students of the academy, arranging a false memory in their minds. Thus, Luo Wei, a complete novice in cooking, suddenly became a specially appointed teacher at Tatsuki Academy. Walking openly and confidently through the school, most students would call Luo Wei teacher when they saw him. As for Luo Wei's youthful face, which was almost as young as theirs, he was subconsciously ignored by the group. After walking through a corridor, Lo was taking a walk in the school. Suddenly, a girl with blonde hair and an indifferent expression walked out of the teaching building ahead. The girl was wearing the uniform of Tatsuki Academy, her legs were encased in long black stockings, and her golden hair fell to her waist, dazzling in the sunlight. It's none other than Erina Nakiri, the female protagonist of Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma. Behind Erina Nakiri was another beautiful girl, also wearing a school uniform and with short pinkish-purple hair. She was naturally Erina Nakiri's little follower and was known in the underworld as Hisako Akido, nicknamed Secretary. Stop. Upon seeing Luo Wei, Erina Nakiri suddenly stopped and looked at him suspiciously. Who are you and why are you at Tatsuki Academy? Luo Wei was taken aback, while Hisako Shinto looked completely bewildered and quickly said, Miss, he's a teacher at our school, have you forgotten? A teacher at the school? Upon hearing this, Erina Nakiri couldn't help but frown. When did such a young teacher come to the school? How come I didn't know? Of course it is, Hisako Shinto was about to explain when she suddenly froze. She knew that Luo Wei was a new teacher at the school, but she had no idea when he had joined the school or what kind of cooking he was good at. More importantly, she didn't even know what this person's name was. This is not right, very not right. Hisako Niito instinctively became wary. This is mainly because Luo Wei was lazy when arranging their memories and simply and crudely assigned himself the role of a teacher. The teacher's background and origins were not mentioned at all. However, most people wouldn't notice anything amiss and wouldn't even suspect that Luo Wei's identity was questionable. Something's wrong with you. Luo Wei's eyes flickered as he glanced at Erina Nakiri. I'm curious, I clearly hypnotized everyone in the school and implanted false memories into them. Why are you unaffected? Is it really because Erina Nakiri has a divine tongue? What a joke. How could a mere god tongue possibly stand against Lovey's power, unless it's a godlike mind or Talma Kamaju's Imagine Breaker? But the question is, does Erina Nakiri even have such a thing? Although Erina Nakiri is the female protagonist of Food Wars, even female protagonists don't have this kind of thing. However, it was strange that she was not hypnotized by herself. Luo Wei admitted that he did not use too much power when hypnotizing the group of ordinary people, for fear that they would not be able to withstand it and their brains would break down. But this is not a reason for Erina Nakiri to ignore her own hypnosis. At least his secretary, who was with him, was hypnotized by him, wasn't she? Why can Erina Nakiri be ignored? There must be something wrong here. Could this be the reason why there are so many evil spirits in the faraway academy? Therefore, driven by curiosity, Luo Wei decisively asked the question. Asking questions when he doesn't understand is also one of his strengths. Upon hearing the word hypnosis, the secretary's face immediately turned extremely ugly and she instinctively shielded Erina Nakiri behind her. Who exactly are you and what is your purpose in infiltrating our school? She didn't doubt whether Luo Wei could hypnotize her. After all, I am the best proof. Moreover, the world is so chaotic now that even vampires have appeared in this world openly and even established the so-called Night Empire. There's even a legend that Mahura Academy in Japan is actually a magic academy. Therefore, it is not surprising that some people are proficient in hypnosis. Just as Luo Wei was about to answer the secretary's question, Nakiri Erina, who was being protected behind him, suddenly pushed the secretary away. I'm giving you one chance. Immediately lift the hypnosis on Tatsuki Academy or don't blame me for being impolite. Oh ho, that's interesting. What are you going to do if I don't break the sleep? Luo Wei asked with a smile. Luo Wei had to admit that he had developed some interest in Erina Nakiri, because the imposing Erina Nakiri in front of her was different from the Erina Nakiri she remembered. In the manga, Erina Nakiri is extremely proud, appearing arrogant to the extreme, but in reality it's to hide her inner vulnerability. I had to package myself as a hedgehog. When faced with danger, they will reveal their true colors and tremble with fear. In the original storyline, she broke down completely after her father's affairs were brought up. That's because her father left her with indelible dark memories when she was young. However, the Nakiri Erina in front of us, besides being proud and arrogant, also possesses a confidence that was not present in the original story. That confidence emanates from within. It is completely different from false self-confidence. So Luo Wei was very curious about what Nakiri Erina in this crossover anime world had gone through to transform into what she is now, even more dazzling than the original Nakiri Erina in the manga. This world is indeed interesting. Seeing that Luo Wei was being stubborn, a hint of impatience flashed in Erina Nakiri's eyes. She took a step forward and lowered her center of gravity. I've already given you a chance. Since you don't cherish it, don't blame me for being impolite. As soon as she finished speaking, Erina Nakiri shot out like an arrow, appearing in front of Luo Wei in a flash. Her delicate fist slammed out and the air exploded with a loud thud. A terrifying shockwave swept towards Luo like a tsunami. Luo Wei's eyelids suddenly widened and he looked at Nakiri Erina in disbelief. Is this the cook? With that power and speed, if you told me Erina Nakiri was a fighter, I'd believe you. Could it be that in this crossover anime world, Erina Nakiri not only learned cooking skills but also martial arts? With a thought, the power of light, like mercury that seeps into every crevice, flowed out of Luo Wei's body in an instant, imprisoning the surrounding space. Erina Nakiri was instantly frozen in midair. I can't move at all. Erina Nakiri. The secretary was horrified when she saw this and exclaimed, "Young miss." Erina Nakiri realized something was wrong and struggled desperately, but the space around her seemed to be welded shut. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't move an inch. Luo Wei reached out his right hand to touch Erina Nakiri's body. Seeing this, Hisako gritted her teeth and rushed towards Luo Wei. Don't touch the young lady. However, her strength and speed are not on the same level as Erina Nakiri at all. She is just an ordinary person. Luo Wei waved his hand, fixing her in place. Then he grabbed Erina Nakiri's arm and examined her carefully. This examination led Luo to discover something very strange. Erina Nakiri has neither magic nor demonic energy, nor any other strange powers within her body. But her cells were unusually vigorous. The power stored in each cell is dozens or even hundreds of times greater than that of an ordinary person. Moreover, these cells are abnormally active. This is not normal. The average person's cellular energy or calories is not that powerful and their cells are not that active. This goes beyond the scope of ordinary people. Could it be that Erina Nakiri underwent some kind of genetic modification, which is why she possesses such immense power? But the problem is, it doesn't look like it. Luo Wei could tell that Erina Nakiri's body was completely natural and had not undergone any surgical modifications. If it had truly been modified, it wouldn't have escaped Ro's inspection. Just then, Luo Wei suddenly discovered that there seemed to be something hidden inside Erina Nakiri's body. However, this thing is hidden quite well. Even Luo Wei could easily overlook it if he wasn't careful. Driven by curiosity, Lovey unleashed his power of light to penetrate Erina Nakiri's body and quickly found what was hidden within her. It was a rather strange life form. It looks somewhat like a demon, but it's not a traditional demon. Moreover, this thing is hidden inside Erina Nakiri's body, and she is extremely weak and has not even woken up yet. What exactly is this thing? Luo Wei's eyes flashed as he released a ray of light into the demon's body. But this strange demon seemed uninterested in the power of light, and Lovey's power of light did not cause it any harm. However, at that moment, Ro gleaned some information from this strange demon. This strange demon is called Black Slime, and it's a gourmet demon. At that moment, Luo Wei suddenly realized the truth and all his doubts were resolved. No wonder Erina Nakiri is so much stronger than in the original manga. No wonder her cells are dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than those of an ordinary person. It turns out that Erina Nakiri became a gourmet hunter and even awakened her gourmet cells. Gourmet cells are a product of the world of Gourmet Captive. Anyone who has watched Toriko knows what gourmet cells are. These are amazing cells that appeared after the birth of the gourmet universe. It was later discovered by the Netero race, a highly intelligent life form capable of manipulating gourmet cells to modify planets. Subsequently, the Netero clan released gourmet cells into the ancient Earth via meteorites. Under the influence of billions of years of development of food cells, Earth's volume increased to more than 600 times its original size, and a food planet with various powerful and delicious life forms emerged. After the birth of humankind, Acacia, the god of food on his quest for culinary delights, encountered a type of jellyfish in the deep sea, the phantom jellyfish. He discovered that the cells in the phantom jellyfish are more active than those in ordinary fish, and that the limbs of the phantom jellyfish regenerate after being eaten, and that the animals that eat the jellyfish become more delicious. Thus, the god of food discovered that life could evolve as a result. Later, food cells were implanted into the human body, which activated human cells. Human life could evolve after consuming food, and at the same time, human strength would surpass that of ordinary humans, exceeding human limits. Ordinary people thus gain the power to destroy the world. So this chaotic crossover world actually incorporates elements of the world of Toriko. It doesn't look like it. After all, Lo did not discover IGO, the so-called International Food Organization, in this world. But how do we explain the fact that a gourmet demon has indeed appeared inside Erina Nakiri's body? Lo Wei was very curious and looked up at Erina Nakiri, who was fixed in place and maintained an offensive posture. I'm very curious, Miss Erina Nakiri, how exactly did you awaken your gourmet cells? Erina Nakiri was dumbfounded. Awakening her gourmet cells is her unique secret, unknown even to her grandfather, Senziman Nakiri. Why would this uninvited guest reveal her secret so readily? She looked at Ro in disbelief. How did you know? Luo Wei said with a half-smile guess. Erina Nakiri said, have you also entered the gourmet secret realm? A hidden culinary gem? Tell me more, Luo Wei urged, sensing this was going to be a big surprise. Erina Nakiri paused for a moment. You don't know. Should I know? Lo Wei countered with a question, and in doing so, he released Erina Nakiri from her confinement, freeing her from her captivity. Of course, Secretary Zai was also released from confinement by Luo Wei. Erina Nakiri, now free, did not attack Lo Wei. After what had just happened, she knew she was no match for him. Don't you really know anything? Erina Nakiri frowned and asked curiously, since you've never been to the gourmet secret realm, how do you know about gourmet cells? I not only know about gourmet cells, I also know that there is a gourmet demon inside you, a black slime. Gourmet demon, what is that? This time, however, it was Erina Nakiri's turn to be confused. You don't know? Luo Wei asked, looking completely surprised. Should I know? Erina Nakiri asked, her eyes flashing. Luo Wei didn't know how to respond for a moment. It seems we need to call in some intelligence, Ms. Nakiri. Erina Nakiri was silent for a moment, then said to Lovey, come with me. Young Miss, seeing this, the loyal secretary seemed about to say something, but was interrupted by Erina Nakiri. You come along too, Hisako. There are some things you should know. Seeing Erina Nakiri's earnest eyes, the secretary swallowed the words that were about to come out and respectfully said something. Yes, Miss, led by Erina Nakiri, Lovey traversed the Tatsuki Culinary Academy and eventually arrived at a large gourmet workshop. From the outside, this food workshop is a 3-story building, but inside is a large kitchen filled with all sorts of cooking utensils and ingredients. Lo saw a whole row of large refrigerators. The number of other kitchen utensils is even more astonishing. This is my private kitchen. No outsiders can come in without my permission. Hisako Shirato proudly remarked from the side, this is a privilege that the young lady enjoys as the first seat of the Elite 10. First place. If Luo Wei remembers correctly, Erina Nakiri in the original story should be the 10th seat, but now this person has become the number 1. Interesting, truly interesting. This world is getting more and more interesting. Erina Nakiri led Luo Wei up to the 3rd floor and into a private office. She plopped down on the sofa and pointed to the person opposite her, saying, sit down. Luo Wei didn't stand on ceremony and plopped down on the floor. Only the secretary stood loyally behind Erina Nakiri, watching Luo Wei with predatory eyes. It seemed that as soon as Luo Wei did anything that was detrimental to the young lady, she would rush to stop him. What would you like to drink? Coffee will do. Hisako, pour him a cup of coffee. Yes, miss. Although the secretary was reluctant, she still poured Luo Wei a steaming cup of coffee for the sake of the young lady, using the finest coffee beans. At least Luo Wei smelled good, and after taking a sip he found the taste to be quite good as well. Now can you tell me what is a gourmet demon? With her hands clasped in front of her chest, Erina Nakiri pressed for an answer. Can. Ro nodded frankly, but it's an equal exchange. After I tell you about the gourmet demon, you tell me about the gourmet secret realm. Erina Nakiri hummed in agreement. Luo Wei wasn't worried that Erina Nakiri would change her mind. After all, even if Erina Nakiri had awakened her gourmet cells, she was still no match for him. He could easily manipulate a young lady like her. So Lo told Erina Nakiri about the origin of the gourmet cells and the gourmet demon. After hearing this, Erina Nakiri fell into deep thought. The secretary, on the other hand, seemed to be listening to gibberish, muttering to herself, how could such a thing be possible? Although it's a bit unbelievable, I believe what he said. Erina Nakiri regained her composure and said calmly, Young miss, the secretary looked at Erina Nakiri and fell silent. Since the young lady is willing to believe such a thing, she is also willing to believe it. Luo Wei said with a smile, now it's your turn, tell us about the secret food paradise. Can? Erina Nakiri said seriously, I came across Gourmet Secret Realm a year ago. In fact, I was the one who came up with the name Gourmet Secret Realm. A year ago, my cooking skills reached a plateau and I was unable to improve any further. Just when I was anxious, frustrated, and at a loss, I suddenly entered another space one night. Suddenly. Lo Wei's eyes flickered. The word was interesting, but he didn't interrupt Erina Nakiri, letting her continue. Erina Nakiri said, I don't know how I got into that other space, but there were no living people in the space, only all sorts of strange and wonderful foods. Those were all delicacies I had never seen before. Cigars growing on trees, giant pigs that were entirely red, mushrooms that tasted like chocolate, and grass that grew like spaghetti. In short, this strange space contains a large number of incredible delicacies that I have never seen before. Therefore, I called this peculiar space a culinary secret realm. After that, every now and then, I would enter this culinary paradise and enjoy the incredible food here. Through the food from this culinary secret realm, my cooking skills improved by leaps and bounds, and I soon surpassed all the students of Tatsuki Academy, becoming the #1 of the 10 elites. Even my physical fitness is getting stronger and stronger, and I've even awakened my gourmet cells. Wait a moment. Just then, Luo Wei suddenly noticed a small detail. You just said that there are no other humans in the gourmet secret realm besides the food, right? Erina Nakiri nodded. That's right, in the gourmet secret realm there are no other humans besides the food, not a single one, at least I've never encountered any other humans. If that's the case, how do you know that you've awakened your gourmet cells? This is Luo Wei's biggest question. Upon hearing Luo Wei's words, Erina Nakiri fell silent, seemingly pondering how to answer Luo Wei's question. After a long pause, she said, if I told you that it was the food secret realm that told me, would you believe me? A hidden culinary paradise. Yes, Erina Nakiri nodded. When I awakened my gourmet cells, I suddenly received a special feedback. It was as if something in the dark was telling me that I had awakened gourmet cells. Looking back now, it was probably the feedback I received from the hidden culinary paradise. The secretary couldn't help but gape. This explanation was simply too outrageous. On the contrary, Luo Wei couldn't help but reveal a slight smile. He could tell that Erina Nakiri wasn't lying. What she said was true. This makes things very interesting. The gourmet secret realm tells Erina Nakiri that she has awakened her gourmet cells. Could it be that this gourmet secret realm is alive? Not necessarily, it could be something else entirely. Luo Wei asked curiously, I have a question. Did you not tell anyone else about your entry into the gourmet secret realm? Upon hearing this, Erina Nakiri sighed helplessly. I told Grandpa before, but he thought I was under too much pressure and was hallucinating. Then why don't you bring out the food from the secret culinary realm to prove yourself? Luo Wei continued to ask questions. Erina Nakiri grew increasingly frustrated. This is the most crucial thing. I've thought about it before, but no matter how hard I try, I can't bring out the things from the gourmet secret realm. Whenever I leave the culinary secret realm, I can only leave alone. So I have absolutely no evidence to prove that what I said is true. Later, although I awakened my culinary talent, I was too lazy to tell anyone else. Simply put, they've given up. Luo Wei grunted, so you can't lead people into the gourmet secret realm either. Of course, Erina Nakiri said, the time I enter the gourmet realm is not fixed. Even I don't know when I will suddenly enter the gourmet realm, so how could I bring people in? That's easy. Luo Wei snapped his fingers and said, I can leave a coordinate on you. When you enter the gourmet secret realm, I will naturally sense it and then enter the gourmet secret realm to find you. I wonder if you would be willing. Can I refuse? Of course. No, Erina Nakiri glared at Luo Wei, annoyed. You're really domineering. Luo Wei felt no shame about this. I finally have this great power, can't I be a little domineering? Erina Nakiri knew perfectly well that this guy had her cornered. This made her very angry. But what's even more frustrating is that she knows she can't refuse. This made me even angrier. Even so, Erina Nakiri rallied her spirits and began to bargain with Lovey. I can agree to your request, but how do you plan to compensate me? Compensate. That's right, you're not trying to get something for free, are you? Erina Nakiri looked at Luo Wei warily. Luo Wei sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, stroked his chin and said, how about this? I'll allow you to become my follower, how about it? Huh. Erina Nakiri was completely bewildered. What kind of compensation was this? No, believers, this isn't something ordinary people can use. Ordinary people would never develop believers. Only one kind of existence needs believers, and that is... Erina Nakiri couldn't help but swallow hard. You are. A god? In a sense, yes. Luo Wei nodded. Dimensional demons are also gods, that much is true. When Erina Nakiri saw Lovey's candid admission, she couldn't help but gasp. The secretary was also startled and stared blankly at Luo Wei. You know, which deity are you? Luo Wei said, I am not the god you know, but a dimensional demon god, a god who rules over a dimension. Erina Nakiri looked confused, as did her secretary. Luo Wei said, simply put, hell is a dimension, heaven is a dimension, earth is a dimension, and Takamagahara, which you are familiar with, should also be a dimension. And I am a god who has mastered the dimension of light. By the way, the dimension of light is not heaven, don't get it wrong. This explanation is even scarier, isn't it? Having mastered a deity of one dimension, doesn't that mean this guy is comparable to Amaterasu? Good grief, no wonder I was so easily defeated. The difference is too big. Erina Nakiri said she had never met such a powerful person before. It's too big. But after the initial shock came a surge of secret delight. Suppressing her excitement, she asked, what benefits would I receive if I became your follower? Luo Wei said, you can use my power is quite strong. With my power, ordinary demons and monsters should not be your match. You can ask me for help in critical moments. If you really encounter an enemy you can't defeat, I can help you solve it. What do you think? Is there really such a good thing? Erina Nakiri nodded subconsciously. I agree. Just then, she suddenly remembered something, turned around and looked at her attendant secretary, Hisako. I hope Hisako can also become your follower. Upon hearing this, Secretary Koko looked at Erina Nakiri with a face full of emotion, her eyes almost drooling. Young Miss Luo Wei had no doubt that if Erina Nakiri just beckoned with her finger, this woman would give herself to Erina Nakiri first. A beautiful scene of lilies blooming unfolds. This woman is way too easy to turn gay. Luo Wei was speechless, but he still agreed, okay, but she has to give me tribute. Offering sacrifices, what are they? 3 meals a day, preferably Huxia food because I'm from that country. Erina Nakiri and her secretary were dumbfounded, offering 3 meals a day as tribute. This was just too much. Aren't you a god? Can't gods eat? Luo Wei retorted. But I remember that the gods of the East are not detached from worldly affairs, are they? The secretary hesitated for a moment before speaking slowly. But I am not a traditional god, but a dimensional demon god. Luo Wei suddenly realized halfway through his explanation, what am I trying to explain to you? Am I a god or are you gods? The reversal of the heavenly gang is considered to be true. Just tell me if you're going or not. Of course we'll eat, it's just 3 meals a day. Erina Nakiri quickly agreed on behalf of her little follower. Not only will she do it for you, but I'll do it for you too, how about it? Seeing this, Luo Wei nodded in satisfaction, with an expression that said he was a promising student. The secretary hesitated for a moment and asked, then where should we find you after we've finished cooking? Luo Wei waved his hand and said, no need to look for me. Once you become my followers, silently recite my name after you have prepared the dishes, and I will naturally take them away. Erina Nakiri thought about it and realized that this was convenient. It just meant that she would have to prepare breakfast for one more person each time she cooked. It's nothing at all. The secretary thought the same way and readily agreed. Luo Wei beckoned to him and said, you two come here and sit next to me. Erina Nakiri asked instinctively, what do you want to do? Of course, it's to turn you into my followers, Luo Wei said irritably. Of course, if you don't want to sit, you can kneel in front of me, I don't mind. Erina Nakiri, let's forget about it. Then she pulled her secretary to sit on either side of Luo Wei. Lovey stretched out his hands and placed them on their shoulders, pouring a large amount of light energy into Erina Nakiri and his secretary. However, it's only around 10,000. For Luo Wei, who possesses 100 million units of light power, this is merely a drop in the ocean. But for Erina Nakiri and her secretary, this was an absolutely overwhelming power. Now, even if the two of them were to fight Nura Rihan one-on-one, they might not necessarily lose, because Nura Rihan's strength is only this much in his normal state. If they use the ghost binding technique, they will be no match for them, because Nura Rihan's strength can be increased by about 10 times when using Oni 10. Crushing those two newbies won't be a problem. After accepting Loi's gift, the two men bore Loi's mark and became his followers. Not only can Luo Wei take back their power in the blink of an eye, but he can also take their lives. But Lovey would basically not do that. After all, he's not some kind of evil god. So strong. Erina Nakiri felt the power of light flowing through her body and couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Since awakening her gourmet cells, Erina Nakiri has discovered that she is terrifyingly powerful. Her immense power also gave her ample confidence. But now, she finally knows what true strength is. Compared to the powerful light energy, the power that the gourmet cells gave her is nothing at all. But this doesn't mean that gourmet cells are inferior to Lo's light power. In fact, the upper limit of gourmet cells is incredibly high. It's almost comparable to Dragon Ball. Especially those culinary demons, they're all terrifying. For example, the gourmet demon leader slime inside Yilong's body had ruled the Black Universe several times. After Yilong's death, it broke away and tried to resurrect him, but was rejected by Yilong. At its peak, a single punch from him could destroy a star and replicate small planets. He has a move called Supernova Explosion, which creates a star the size of a ping-pong ball. However, Boss Slime compressed an unimaginable mass and said during the star explosion process. This method could make the food planet disappear completely. It's important to know that the Earth of gourmet food is completely different from the Earth of today. Thanks to the transformation by food cells, the planet Earth is hundreds of times larger than it is today. However, the supernova explosion of the leader slime can still destroy gourmet Earth, which shows just how terrifying the upper limit of gourmet cells really is. However, Erina Nakiri had only been awakening her gourmet cells for a short time and had eaten too few good things. So the level of her gourmet cells was too low, and even the gourmet demon within her body had not awakened. There's simply no way to unleash the true power of the food cells. However, on the other hand, the gourmet demon inside Erina Nakiri is a black slime. Could this thing be a member of the same race as Boss Slime, or perhaps one of his subordinates? It seems like it's not impossible. On the other hand, besides Erina Nakiri, the secretary is also amazed by the powerful force within her. She even felt that she could completely destroy this food workshop on Earth with just a flick of her finger. Not even a crumb was left. Startled, she quickly suppressed the impulse in her heart. This gourmet workshop is the young lady's kitchen. If it's destroyed, how can we explain it to her? You need to calm down, Hisako. There's a saying that goes, he who possesses a sharp weapon will naturally have the will to kill, which perfectly illustrates Secretary Zai's current mindset. After gaining great power, one will always want to try it out. This is normal. Even an ordinary person with a hammer will swing it around a couple of times and will see everything as a nail. Not to mention the secretary who has just gained immense power. Luo Wei saw through his secretary's mindset and said with a smile, there's no need to suppress your inner thoughts. If you want to try out your own power, you can do so anytime. There are plenty of people out there who can help you. Secretary's daughter. Although she could understand each word individually, she became somewhat confused when they were put together. What does it mean to have a lot of hands outside? Let me show you. Luo Wei stood up from the sofa, led the two people away from the gourmet workshop, and came to the open space outside. Pointing to the evil spirits wandering within the Tatsuki Academy, he said, "Look, how many hands do you have? Come on, go ahead." The secretary couldn't help but gasp, What is this thing? She had no idea that there were so many strange and bizarre monsters in the school, covered in black mist and looking like humans but not quite. This is terrifying. Is this still the Tatsuki Academy she knows? These are all evil spirits, Ro said. No, it's not an evil spirit. However, at that moment, Erina Nakiri suddenly shook her head. Evil spirits are not accurate. To be precise, these things should be called filth. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei raised an eyebrow, feeling as if he had heard this term somewhere before. Filth. The secretary paused for a moment, then seemed to remember something. I've heard my family say that filth is a monster born from negative human emotions. Erina Nakiri nodded and said, however, filth is indeed something created by human evil thoughts. It can be called a cursed spirit or an evil spirit, but filth is a term defined by the ancient Onmyoji. These filthy, ruin-like worlds are called by Onmyoji calamity. Once humans enter the wilderness, they will be devoured by the filth that dwells within. It is a truly terrifying place. The secretary asked, since these filths are in the wilderness, why are they appearing in our school? Erina Nakiri thought for a moment and said, I'm not entirely sure of the specific reason, but I've heard that the Magano is like the opposite of the human world, and occasionally some filth passes through the Magano and enters the human world. However, most of them will encounter some kind of restriction after entering the human world due to their filth. If you cannot see these filths cannot harm you. The secretary suddenly realized, oh, so that's how it is. Erina Nakiri said, of course, this is not absolute. There are powerful or special kinds of filth that can break through these limitations and attack humans. However, there are not many of these filths. The Yin-Yang Bureau will monitor these filths and eliminate them before they harm people. Upon hearing this, a thought suddenly flashed through Luo Wei's mind and he remembered. The words filth and disaster seemed to originate from an anime, Twin Stars Onmyoji. To be honest, Luo Wei doesn't know much about this kind of anime because he has only read part of the comics. In his memory, the male protagonists seem to be called Yanmatang. Yamatang something Gulu or Chelan, that's basically how it is. Enmadu is a typical character designed from a shonen manga. As a child, I aimed to become the strongest onmyoji, but after experiencing a certain event, I gave up and abandoned my dream of becoming an onmyoji. Later, he met the female protagonist, and inspired by her, he worked hard again, rekindling his childhood dream of becoming the strongest onmyoji. This flavor is way too strong. There are at least 80 or 100 male protagonists like this in anime, if not 100. So I don't have a deep impression of this anime, but I did think the fight scenes were cool, so I watched some of it, but later I was attracted by another manga. I've given up on this project. I never imagined that the world would also stitch this work together. Luo Wei would call this crossover anime world the ultimate Frankenstein's monster. While Luo Wei was deep in thought, Secretary Ko and Erina Nakiri had already taken action, activating the power of light within their bodies to begin eliminating the evil spirits or so-called filth in the school. These filths are no match for them. Or rather, these impurities are no match for the power of light. The power of light is the natural enemy of these impurities. When filth encounters the power of light, it's like snow meeting sunlight or butter meeting a hot pan. It melts away completely in an instant, leaving not a trace. Within 10 minutes, a large number of filthy creatures had died at the hands of Erina Nakiri and her secretary. Luo Wei also felt a very slight increase in his power of the light dimension. This surprised Luo Wei greatly. He hadn't expected that his followers' efforts to eliminate the filth would actually bring him a response. Although it was a small amount, it still represented growth. Doesn't this mean that as long as he has enough followers who are diligent enough, he can become stronger without even trying? In an instant, a strange idea suddenly came to Luo Wei. Or why not establish your own religion, develop a large number of followers, let them eliminate the filth, and you can become stronger while lying down? It doesn't seem impossible. However, this religion might need some packaging because Lowy prefers corporations or companies to religions. Because it is more modern and in line with the times. On the other hand, as the battle deepened, the secretary found that she was becoming more and more able to control the power of light at will. The power of light can not only enhance her physical abilities, but also change according to her wishes. Under her control, the power of light can transform into bows and arrows or into guns and cannons. It's incredibly versatile and extremely easy to use. However, the secretary still prefers to transform the power of light into weapons like kitchen knives to cleanse these filth. Often, with a single cut, these filths would scream and vanish into thin air, never to be seen again. But soon, the secretary noticed something was wrong. She's tried so hard, why hasn't she completely eradicated the filth in the school? Young miss, isn't there too much filth in our school? Erina Nakiri was also helpless and explained with a wry smile, you know the atmosphere at our school. In order to hone the best chefs, Grandpa treated 99% of the students as expendable pawns or stepping stones. Students in schools are under tremendous pressure, and these strong negative emotions can easily breed or attract filth. Therefore, it's inevitable that there's more filth in the school. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei, who was deep in thought, suddenly realized what was going on. He knew it. There were just too many evil spirits at Tatsuki Academy, so that's what happened. Recalling the original storyline of Food Wars, the number of students here is not very satisfactory. They could be expelled from school at any time. No wonder so many unclean things are attracted to a student life where they can't enjoy any happiness. However, on the other hand, the school's higher-ups knew about these things, but they turned a blind eye. Aren't they afraid that these filths would mutate and attack the school's students? In fact, it wasn't just Luo Wei, his secretary had the same idea. Don't worry. Erina Nakiri explained from the side. Grandpa had already figured this out and reached an agreement with the Onmyorio Bureau of Yin and Yang. A strange magic circle has been set up at the school. Once such filth appears, it will trigger the defense mechanism of the magic array, and the magic array will eliminate the filth. Luo Wei was taken aback. He was unfamiliar with yin-yang techniques and could even be said to know nothing about them. I really didn't realize that such a strange magic array was set up inside the Far Moon Academy. But after being reminded by Erina Nakiri, he took another serious look at Tatsuki Academy, and this time he actually discovered some clues. In several corners of the Tatsuki Academy there is a shrine. Luo Wei counted them, there were 5 shrines in total. Each shrine houses a magical artifact with special powers. Several shrines each occupied a spot, and together they formed a pentagram mark that enveloped the entire Tatsuki Academy. Luo Wei guessed that this must be the magic circle that Nakiri Erina mentioned. That's interesting. Although Luo Wei didn't know much about yin-yang magic, he did know that the pentagram was also known as the Kikyo seal. However, this thing has nothing to do with the shrine maiden Kikyo. Instead, it was a magic seal invented by the great Onmyoji Abe no Seimei to subdue demons. The Onmyoji installed a pentagram magic circle at the Tatsuki Academy to eliminate all filth that could harm humans, which was quite creative. That deserves some encouragement. However, Luo Wei didn't quite understand why, since a pentagram array to eliminate filth had already been installed. They didn't just eliminate all the filth in the school and instead left these things behind. But the next second, Luo Wei thought of a possibility. As mentioned before, evil spirits or filth are monsters born from negative human emotions. Simply put, these things are mutually reinforcing and mutually restraining towards humans. As long as humanity exists, filth will continue to be created. It cannot be completely eradicated. If Tatsuki Academy truly increases the power of its magic array, it will eliminate every instance of filth that invades the Academy. The power of the magic circle will soon be exhausted. At that time, Tatsuki Academy will still need to invite Onmyoji to set up new magic circles or inject new power into them. And all of these cost money. After all, Onmyoji need to eat too. They can't possibly set up this magic circle for Tatsuki Academy for free. Therefore, instead of painstakingly eliminating every filth that invades the Academy, it would be better to focus on eliminating the specific filth that affects the students. In any case, as long as the students can't see the filth, it won't have any impact on humans. Most of the students at Tatsuki Academy are ordinary people who don't have the ability to see ghosts, so they can't see these messy filths and won't be harmed by them. Of course, these are just Luo Wei's guesses. But Luo Wei believes that his guess is pretty close to the truth. More than an hour later, thanks to the efforts of Erina Nakiri and her secretary, the filth within Tatsuki Academy was finally completely eradicated. Of course, this is only temporary. As time goes by, a large amount of filth will accumulate here. After all, the learning atmosphere at Tatsuki Academy is quite terrible. The students' mental state was unstable, and they were overwhelmed with negative emotions. Such a large-scale production base for negative emotions will naturally emerge, attracting a large amount of filth. However, Luo Wei was not worried about the comfort of Tatsuki Academy. There was no problem before, and now that there are two of Luo Wei's followers, there is even less of a problem. On the contrary, Erina Nakiri and the secretary were panting heavily after eliminating all the filth. Although the power of light can replenish their physical strength, mental fatigue still exists. It's understandable that the two of them would feel tired after constantly manipulating the power of light to eliminate filth for more than an hour. Seeing this, Luo Wei didn't disturb the two women any further and said with a smile, "All right, you two can rest now. There's no need to prepare any food for today. Remember to start offering sacrifices to me from tomorrow. I'm going back now." After saying that, Luo Wei simply patted his behind and left. In any case, he had already achieved his purpose in coming to Tatsuki Academy, so there was no point in staying. He might as well leave. However, before leaving, Luo Wei withdrew his power and released the hypnosis. Information about themselves suddenly disappeared from the students' memories. Apart from Erina Nakiri and Hisako, no one at Tatsuki Academy remembers Lovey. He came quietly just as he left quietly, waving goodbye, leaving without taking away a single cloud. The time flew by and it was already the next morning. Luo Wei had just gotten out of bed and hadn't even remembered to wash up when he suddenly heard a voice. "Lord Lovey, I have prepared this morning's meal. Please accept it." Luo Wei recognized the voice. It belonged to his secretary. She strictly followed Luo Wei's instructions and began offering him 3 meals a day starting today. After receiving his secretary's prayer, Luo Wei casually snapped his fingers. A steaming hot lunchbox appeared in front of him. Luo Wei glanced down and saw that the lunchbox contained a very Huxia-style breakfast. Steamed buns, millet porridge, and scallion pancakes. It looks pretty good. Luo Wei casually placed the lunchbox on the dining table, went into the bathroom to wash up, then went to the kitchen to get a pair of chopsticks and began to enjoy the breakfast served by his secretary. I took a bite of the steamed bun first. The skin was thin and the filling was generous. The taste was pure and it also contained yam and goji berries. It is a medicinal diet that the secretary is good at. Seeing this, Luo Wei didn't hold back in praising his secretary, saying, "It tastes good, keep it up." At the same time, inside Taogetsu Academy, the secretary, who had been feeling uneasy, was startled when she heard Luo Wei's voice in her ear. Then a joyful smile bloomed on her face. "Young Miss, Lord Luo Wei praised my cooking." Upon hearing this, Erina Nakiri quickly placed the dishes she had prepared on the table, clasped her hands together and prayed to Lovey. Lord Lo, I have prepared breakfast, please accept it. The next second, the dish placed in front of Erina Nakiri vanished into thin air. It was as if it had been taken away by an unknown force. Although it wasn't the first time she'd seen something like this, Erina Nakiri was still quite shocked. As expected of a deity, such methods are simply unbelievable. Not long after, Erina Nakiri received praise from Lovey. Very good, I have never had such a delicious breakfast before, I give you a good review. Erina Nakiri breathed a long sigh of relief and quickly offered a prayer to Lovey. Lord Lo, what would you like to eat for lunch today? On the other hand, Luo Wei, who was enjoying the pie that Nakiri Erina had brought over at home, thought for a moment after hearing Nakiri Erina's question and said, I want to eat steak, and I'll also ask my secretary to make me a rice bowl. Secretary's daughter. Erina Nakiri paused for a moment, then realized that the secretary was Hisako. Is it because Hisako is his secretary that he is called Secretary-ko? What a strange name that is. Erina Nakiri was both amused and exasperated, but she still agreed. Hisako, may I make a sumptuous rice bowl for Lord Lovey for lunch today? The secretary nodded quickly. No problem, Miss. Erina Nakiri nodded in satisfaction. Luo Wei's house. After breakfast, Luo Wei entered his own light dimension and undertook a profound transformation of it, making it even more beautiful. This busy period lasted for a whole day. Lunch was eaten within the dimension of light. As evening fell, Luo Wei finished his day of transformations, left the dimension of light and returned to the real world. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. Luo Wei raised an eyebrow, walked through the living room, came to the entrance hall and opened his own front door. A pretty woman with a graceful figure was standing at her door. It was the Yukiana I had met once before in the Nura clan. Luo Wei vaguely remembered that this woman was named Kawa Yukari, and she seemed to be in love with Nura Nurarihian, but Nura Nurarihian chose a human woman, namely Nura Rihan's mother. Therefore, Rihan Nura left the Nura clan at a very young age. Her past and her fate remain a mystery. However, in this world, Kawa Yukari did not leave but remained with the Nura clan. This can be considered one of the changes, both significant and minor in this world. Lord Lo. Upon seeing Luo Wei open the door, Kawa Yukari bowed respectfully. There was no way around it. The power Luo Wei had displayed that day was simply too terrifying. The moment she saw Luo Wei, she couldn't help but recall the scene where Rihan Nura fought with all his might, only to be effortlessly crushed by the opponent. This kind of monster is not someone a demon like her can afford to offend. Therefore, Kawa Yukari was exceptionally respectful towards Luo Wei. You came to see me today, so you must have some good news. Kawa Yukari nodded and said, after yesterday's operation, our Nura clan found dozens of man-eating yokai in Tokyo. However, we don't know which of these yokai is the one Lord Lovey is looking for. Therefore, the general sent me here to invite Lord Lo to come and identify it. At this point, as if afraid of being blamed by Lord Lovey, Yukari Kawa quickly explained. Initially, we did intend to bring these monsters here for Lord Lovey to see. However, the demonic aura unleashed by the Supreme Commander yesterday alarmed the Onmyorio, so the Onmyorio sent one of the 12 divine generals and one of the 12 heavenly generals to visit the Nura clan. These two are still in the Nura clan and have not left. There's also a group of people secretly watching the Nura clan. Therefore, we are unable to bring these monsters with us. Please forgive us, Lord Lovey. Luo Wei responded with an O and calmly said, don't panic, I'm not an unreasonable person. Since there's a reason, I'll go with you. Yukari Kawa breathed a sigh of relief and said respectfully, thank you for your understanding, Lord Lovey. Afterwards, Luo Wei closed the door and left the residential area with Kawa Yukari. Led by Yukari Kawa, they arrived at an abandoned building. This is an unfinished building. For various reasons, construction of the building was halted halfway through, but when Luo Wei stepped into the building, he discovered a sinister aura lingering there. He immediately realized why construction on the building had stopped, because this place is haunted. Upon entering the building, Luo Wei discovered that the yin energy had almost dissipated, replaced by a strong demonic aura. This suggests that the monsters lurking in the building are not just one or two. We climbed the unfinished staircase and arrived at the top of the abandoned building. A spacious hall. A large group of monsters had been waiting in the hall for quite some time. Most of them were yokai from the Nura clan. Besides the familiar hairy PR St. Ute and the Tengu, there was also a headless demon that had been taught a lesson by Lobai. Upon seeing Luo Wei's arrival, the headless ghost couldn't help but touch his chest. He was knocked away by Luo Wei's punch and fell into a coma. Every time he saw Luo Wei, he had a faint feeling of pain in his chest. It was probably because the impression that Lo Wei had left on him was too profound. Besides the Nura clan's yakai, another group of yakai were tied up and thrown on the ground. Their mouths were sealed with magic, preventing them from speaking. They could only writhe their bodies like maggots. Kawa Yukari said, "These monsters lying on the ground are the ones who ate people in Tokyo." Luo Wyan said something and said, "Thank you for your hard work," then walked up to one of the monsters. He crouched down and looked at the monster. It was a cat demon. Luo Wei raised his hand and broke the spell that sealed the other person's mouth, allowing him to speak. "Give me a laugh," Luo Wei said. "Cat demon." Luo Wei said, "Smile. If your smile is pleasant, I'll spare your life. How about that?" The cat demon's eyes lit up and he hurriedly asked, "Is this true?" "Really?" The cat demon could tell that although Luo Wei was alone, the Nura clan demons treated him with great respect and should be able to make decisions, so he immediately burst into laughter. But the next second, Luo Wei unleashed a beam of light that pierced through the cat demon's body. A blazing fire erupted from the wound, instantly reducing the cat demon to ashes. "That laugh is really awful," Luo Wei said unhappily. The cat demon wasn't the monster that ate the original body, but since the cat demon liked to eat people, Luo Wei naturally wouldn't let it go and cleanly sent it to hell. Then, Luo Wei walked up to the second monster, which was a Kametachi. "Just like him, give me a laugh. If it sounds nice, I'll let you off the hook." After saying that, he broke the spell that sealed the other person's mouth once again. When the Kametachi saw the cat demon being mercilessly executed by Luo Wei, he was already pale with fright and stammered, unable to laugh. "What, you don't want to smile? Ice, if you're unwilling to laugh, then go die." Without hesitation, Luo Wei unleashed a beam of light, killing him. That sound just now made Luo Wei realize that he wasn't the monster he was looking for. But as I said before, if you've eaten people, you should be prepared to die. Then Luo Wei walked up to the third monster and repeated the same sentence. The monster was stunned to see how ruthless Luo Wei was, knowing that he would die whether he laughed or not. However, he ultimately decided to take the gamble and smiled obsequiously. But the next second he was executed by Luo Wei. Please let me go." "No," Luo Wei raised his hand and killed the monster. "You be ****D, do you even know who I am?" "No." Luo Wei shook his head and killed again. I don't want to die, still not right." Luo Wei raised his sword and killed the monster once more. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen monsters died at the hands of Luo Wei. Whether they laugh or not, whether they beg for mercy or threaten, they will ultimately face death. This terrified the remaining monsters. The remaining monsters, good heavens, they're definitely going to die today, aren't they? Who is this guy? How can he be so freakish? What grudge does he have against the monster? Luo Wei naturally wouldn't explain anything to these monsters. Once he sensed something was wrong, he would immediately kill them without hesitation. The Nura clan's yakai all exclaimed that it was perverted, and many yakai felt a sense of kinship and sorrow for the fate of their kind. A small number of monsters even believed that they were aiding and abetting evil. However, considering Luo Wei's immense strength, they had to suppress any thoughts that crossed their minds. It's better for a bunch of man-eating monsters to die than for the Nura clan to die. Before long, Luo Wei beheaded all the remaining monsters, leaving none alive. After defeating all the monsters, Luo Wei was quite disappointed. He turned to Shirley and said, "These are not the monsters I'm looking for, you guys keep looking." Upon hearing this, Shirley nodded and said, "I understand, Lord Lovey, we will continue the search." Luo Wyan said, "How about this? If you can really help me find that monster, I'm willing to protect your Nura clan. What do you say?" Lovey also knew that although he had forcibly subdued the Nura clan and forced them to work for him, but the other party can simply pay lip service while disobeying, or go through the motions without putting in any real effort. Putting yourself in their shoes, if Luo Wei were the one being subdued, he wouldn't go all out either. "I'll definitely look for them, but whether I can find them depends entirely on my own feelings." So, in order to motivate the other party and get the Nura clan to work wholeheartedly for him, Lobai simply made them a promise. Upon hearing this, Shirley's eyes lit up slightly, but she didn't say anything. She simply nodded and said, "I will pass this on to the general." Luo Wyan said something, then parted ways with Shirley and her group of monsters, leaving the abandoned building. I got home, washed up, and went to bed. The next day, after getting out of bed, Luo Wei went to the bathroom to wash up and ate the breakfast that Nakiri, Erina, and his secretary had offered. Only then did he leisurely leave home and head towards his school, the private Sakuragi Academy. The place where the original owner lived was not far from the private Sakura Academy. It's only a 10-minute drive away. If you're running, you can compress it down to 5 minutes. Therefore, when he left home, Luo Wei was not in a hurry at all. When he arrived at school, there were still at least 15 minutes before the bell rang. At the school gate, Amakusa Shino, the student council president of the private Sakuragi Academy, along with the student council secretary Shichiju Tenka, were checking the students' appearance and personal belongings. Because students at the private Sakuragi Academy always bring strange and prohibited items into the school, Amakusa Shino and Nanajo Tenku have to rush to the school early in the morning. They stood at the school gate and checked the students coming and going. However, in Luo Wei's view, the school's biggest contraband items were Amakusa Shinobu and Nanajo Tenku. Because the two of them were just too lewd. Luo Wei was sometimes really afraid that the two of them might inadvertently corrupt the school's atmosphere. In particular, the school's vice president and the Tsukomi, straight man, Tsuda Takatoshi has not yet arrived. This was something that surprised Luo Wei, because in the original storyline of Seidaka Yakuindomo, Tsuda Takatoshi was one of the first boys to enter Sakuragi Academy after it was changed from an all-girls school to a co-educational school. Luo Wei remembered that the other person chose to attend Sakura Academy because it was closer to their home. Not long after enrolling, he was pulled into the student council, which was originally all girls, by Amakusa Shino as the representative of the boys in the student council, and became the vice president of the student council, filling the position that Amakusa had previously vacated. But now Luo Wei has been enrolled in school for some time. It was strange that Takatoshi Tsuda was still not in place. If you're asking whether there's a person named Takatoshi Tsuda at the school, then yes, there is. Moreover, Tsuda Takatoshi was Luo Wei's classmate and sat by the window, but Luo Wei was quite surprised that Amakusa Shino didn't recruit him into the student council. What kind of little story happened behind this? Hey, you international student over there. Just as Luo Wei was lost in thought, a clear, cold voice rang out. Luo Wei looked up and saw that Amakusa Shino was staring intently at him with eyes like black pearls, and then striding towards him. In an instant, it was right in front of me, its face close to mine. His breath slapped against Luo Wei's face. Too close, far too close. So close that if Luo Wei moved his head forward just 1 centimeter, he could kiss the other's rosy lips. So lax, so incredibly lax. Amakusa Shino said to Luo Wei in a righteous tone, "Look at you now, your clothes are loose and baggy, your attitude is lazy and sluggish, and you walk with a swaying gait. Do you still count as a student of our private Sakura Academy? Hey you, didn't you eat breakfast? Wake up." As he spoke, he patted Luo Wei's shoulder forcefully. "Since you are a student, you should be energetic, just like a boy should be energetic every morning. Cheer up, international students." Luo Wei, even though I knew from watching the anime that this guy has no self-control and can blurt out dirty jokes, I knew he was a loose tongue, but seeing it in reality was truly eye-opening. It's even more impactful than in the anime. This guy really doesn't know what it means to be ashamed. "President, do you even know what you're saying?" Luo Wei couldn't help but complain. "Is it really okay to say this to a perfectly healthy guy?" Amakusa Shino snorted twice and calmly said, "I just wanted you to cheer up. Is there anything wrong with that?" "No, it's nothing as long as you're happy." Luo Wei sighed, straightened his back and asked, "Is this all right?" Amakusa Shino nodded in satisfaction. "Isn't this great? International students, a man's spirit should be like a little brother." Luo Wei, this guy really has a lot of vulgar and offensive language. As expected of you, the student council president of dirty jokes. Luo Wei really didn't want to make lewd jokes and tell dirty stories to the student council president in front of everyone. So he had no choice but to back down and make up an excuse to get away. When Luo Wei arrived at the classroom, he found that Ritsu Tanaka was already there, sitting in a chair and chatting with Mio Akiyama, who was leaning against the desk. Upon seeing Luo Wei enter, he quickly waved. "Luo Weijin, over here, over here." Luo Wei walked over and sat down in his chair. "Why are you so energetic so early in the morning? What are you talking about?" "Of course we're discussing AI-chan's concert." "AI-chan, Hashino AI? Of course, who else could it be but her?" Ritsu Tanaka nodded. "You didn't go that day, so you don't know, but AI-chan's concert was absolutely amazing. Both the stage effects and the performance were top-notch in the industry. No wonder she's a popular idol, she's incredible." "Is it really that exaggerated?" Luo Wei couldn't help but glance at Akiyama Mio when he saw Tanaka Ritsu gesturing wildly. Akiyama Mio nodded. "AI-chan's concert was indeed amazing. Even you, Akiyama, say so, that's really great." However, this angered Ritsu Tanaka, who said, "Hey, why don't you believe what I say, but you believe Mio-chan's words without question? You're such a womanizer. Take this." Tanaka Ritsu was very dissatisfied with Luo Wei's behavior of prioritizing women over friends. He attacked Luo Wei's ribs with both hands in a double dragon playing with a pearl's gesture, intending to tickle Luo Wei. However, Luo Wei reacted quickly, his large hands shooting out and grabbing Tanaka Ritsu's wrists with both hands. The two locked eyes, sparks seemingly flying between them. Then the struggle began. Even if Luo Wei weren't a dimensional demon god now with unbelievable power, he could still suppress a little girl effortlessly. Ritsu Tanaka made several attempts to break through Luo Wei's defenses, but all ended in failure. Finally, she gave up, shook off Luo Wei's hands, and threw herself into Akiyama Mio's arms. Mio-chan, Luo Wei-kun bullied me waja. Hey, your crying is so fake. Luo Wei grumbled to himself, then sighed, fine, I give up. I'll make you something nice for lunch today as compensation, how about that? Real. Overjoyed, Ritsu Tanaka quickly broke free from Mio Akiyama's warm embrace, staring intently at Luo Wei with wide eyes. A gentleman's word is as good as his bond, Luo Wei assured him. Ritsu Tanaka thought for a moment and said, how about I eat spicy diced chicken and spicy chicken wings? Sure. Luo Wei nodded and sent a message to his two followers, asking Erina Nakiri to make spicy diced chicken and his secretary to make spicy chicken wings. Tanaka Ritsu then beamed with joy. Akiyama Mio tapped Tanaka Ritsu on the head a little embarrassed and said to Luo Wei, actually you didn't have to do that, Ritsu was just joking. It's all right, this is what we have for lunch today. Luo Wei's words had captivated Tian Jingzhong Ritsu, who spent the entire morning preoccupied with spicy diced chicken and numbing spicy chicken wings, completely unable to concentrate on the lesson. After finally getting to lunch break, he immediately pulled out his lunchbox and stared intently at Luo Wei with his big eyes. It was as if urging Luo Wei to hurry up and take out the lunchbox. Luo Wei smiled, reached into the desk, and took out the lunchbox. In fact, during class, Erina Nakiri and her secretary had already prepared lunch and served it to Lovey. However, at that time, Lo placed the bento box in the light dimension. It was only taken out now. The moment Luo Wei took out the lunchbox, placed it on the table, and opened the lunchbox, a rich aroma burst forth, instantly engulfing the entire classroom. Every single student who hadn't left the classroom couldn't help but look at the lunchbox in Luo Wei's hand. They were all drooling. It smells amazing, they've never smelled such delicious food before. Ritsudo Tanaka was stunned. He took a deep breath and said, it smells so good. Did you really make this? The dishes that Luo Wei used to make were also very good, but they never smelled this good. This is completely different from what Luo Wei used to do. You guessed right, I didn't do this. Someone else prepared it for me. Luo Wei nodded and said, these were prepared for me by my two friends, what do you think? Friend? What friend? Could it be your girlfriend? You be *****D, you didn't actually get a girlfriend, did you? Ritsu Tanaka couldn't help but widen his eyes and exclaimed in surprise. Luo Wei shook his head. At most, Erina Nakiri and his secretary could be considered his followers, not his girlfriends. However, if either of them wants to be promoted to a permanent position, Luo Wei will not refuse. The main reason is that both of them have such great figures, especially Erina Nakiri. She is a high school student, but her figure is so good that she doesn't look like a high school student at all. The secretary is also the kind of beautiful girl who is very traditional. Luo Wei was naturally lusting after other people's bodies. He was despicable. However, it seems that although the two have become followers of Luo Wei, they do not intend to become Luo Wei's girlfriends. Luo Wei was too embarrassed to use force. After all, relationships require mutual consent. Forcing someone is simply shameless. Luo Wei couldn't do it. Are you sure it's not your girlfriend? Ritsu Tanaka was a little skeptical. If it wasn't his girlfriend who would prepare such exquisite dishes for him, can ordinary friends do that? What girlfriend? Just then, Akiyama Mio was drawn over by the aroma. Ritsu Tanaka said, I'm talking about Luo Wei-kun. His lunchbox today was made by a friend. I suspect it's his girlfriend. Akiyama Mio paused for a moment and looked at Luo Wei. Luo Wei shook his head. She's not my girlfriend, but our relationship is definitely a bit more special than that of ordinary friends. After all, they are believers. Instead, Ritsu Tanaka seemed to have thought of something and tentatively asked, could it be that we're more than friends but less than lovers? You're overthinking it. Luo Wei glared at her irritably and casually tapped her on the head with his chopsticks. It hurts so much. Tanaka Ritsu let out a soft sigh and said with displeasure, are you trying to kill me to silence me? Luo Wei ignored him. On the contrary, Akiyama Mio looked at the steaming bento in front of Luo Wei and suddenly said, Luo Wei-kun, your bento is hot. How did you do that? Upon hearing her reminder, Ritsu Tanaka also realized, oh right, why is your bento box called lively? Generally speaking, if high school students in neon-lit areas don't go to the cafeteria for lunch and bring their own lunch, They will prepare the lunch before leaving home in the morning. Then from morning to noon, no matter how well you keep the food warm, it will inevitably get cold. Therefore, most high school students' meals are cold, unless it's in a thermos. However, most of the bento boxes used by high school students do not actually keep food warm. Therefore, Tanaka Ritsu and Akiyama Mio were so surprised when they saw that Luo Wei's bento was hot. It's just a little trick, nothing to mention. Luo Wei smiled slightly, without telling the two that the bento box had just been made by Nakiri Erina and her secretary, and was naturally still hot. Ritsu Tanaka's eyes lit up, and he leaned close to Luo Wei. Hey Luo Wei, please tell me how you did it. Who would want to eat a cold bento box when they can have a hot one? Not to mention Ritsu Tanaka, even Mio Akiyama looked at Luo Wei with expectant eyes. Seeing how expectant they both were, Luo Wei said, Actually, I'm a magician, so the lunchbox was heated up with magic. How does that explanation sound? It's reasonable for a dimensional demon god to play a role as a magician. Ritsu Tanaka rolled her eyes and said, Fine, don't tell me then you're so stingy. On the contrary, Akiyama Mio, seeing that Luo Wei didn't seem to be lying, couldn't help but ask, Luo Wei-kun, are you really a magician? How could that be? Before Luo Wei could even speak, Ritsu Tanaka immediately denied it. Luo Wei was just joking. How could you actually believe him, Mio-chan? If you're so easily fooled, what will you do without me in the future? Luo Wei originally planned to show off in front of the two women, but he didn't expect that Ritsu Tanaka wouldn't fall for it at all. He picked up a chicken wing with a disgruntled expression and shoved it into Ritsu Tanaka's mouth. Let's eat, you're so smart. Ritsu Tanaka subconsciously took a bite, and a flavor she had never experienced before burst forth in her mouth. She had eaten spicy chicken wings before, but she had never eaten such delicious spicy chicken wings. The chicken, infused with just the right amount of numbing spiciness, filled every corner of my mouth. It won't be too spicy to choke your throat, nor too numbing to make your tongue lose its original sensation. In short, in a nutshell, delicious, delicious, so damn delicious. At this moment, Ritsu Tanaka didn't even bother arguing with Luo Wei and immediately turned into a glutton, eating like crazy. Seeing this, Akiyama Mio glanced apologetically at Luo Wei and at Luo Wei's invitation joined the ranks of the freeloaders. The three of them ate their lunch with gusto, their mouths greasy with oil. This caused hardship for the other students in the class. Seeing Luo Wei and his two companions eating, everyone suddenly felt that their own lunchboxes didn't taste as good anymore, and tears of envy welled up in their eyes. That's just inhuman. Many people glared angrily at Luo Wei and his two companions for their actions, and then left in a huff. I can't stand being in this shabby classroom any longer. If they stayed any longer, they feared they would become robbers and steal the three's lunch. The lunch break flew by, and the classroom quickly returned to normal. After the afternoon classes ended, the school bell rang as scheduled. High schools in Japan usually let out early, around 3 p.m. of course. The senior students might finish around 5 p.m. But Luo Wei and his classmates weren't seniors yet, so they finished their classes at 3 p.m. Next up is club time. Most high school students join a club or association to enjoy club activities after school. For example, Ritsu Tanaka and Mio Akiyama joined the light music club. So after school, I said hello to Luo Wei and headed straight to the light music club with my instrument. As for Luo Wei, or rather his predecessor, he did not join any gang. Because the predecessor was an international student, he was not enthusiastic about club activities, and after school he had other things to do, so he simply didn't have extra time to participate in club activities. The things the predecessor was busy with can actually be described in 2 words. Work to earn a living. As an international student, my family would send me a living allowance every month. The problem is that this sum of money was only enough for the predecessor to live on. It's impossible to buy other things, such as game consoles, CDs, mobile phones, figurines, comics, headphones, etc. So, if the predecessor wanted to live more comfortably in Japan, he had to work. Luo Wei recalled that his predecessor seemed to have worked at a convenience store. This was a life that Ro had never experienced before. Even before he transmigrated, Luo Wei had never worked at a convenience store, so this time he could go and see for himself. After leaving school, Luo Wei arrived at his workplace in no time, a 24-hour convenience store. Upon entering the convenience store, the busy sales clerk saw Luo Wei come in and quickly said, "Luo Wei, you've come at the right time. There's a batch of Coke that's out of stock on the shelf. Go and restock it quickly." Luo Wei said, "Oh," walked into the convenience store's warehouse, changed into his work clothes, and then took out a case of Coke to restock. The work at a convenience store isn't actually that busy. It involves restocking, checking inventory, and then cashiering. Before we knew it, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. When it was time for the previous sales clerk to leave, a new employee came to take over. She was a Kansai-accented girl with a ponytail. It's you, migrant worker warrior Aoyama and Nankai. In reality, the true worker warrior should be Amin Suzuha from Steins Gate, but Lovey feels that it's perfectly fitting to give that nickname to Aoyama Nanami as well. Because Aoyama Nanami is indeed a workaholic, working several jobs a day to pursue his dream. They truly deserve the title of migrant worker warriors. This is also why Luo Wei came to the convenience store to experience life. After all, who wouldn't like a beautiful girl who's pleasing to the eye? To be honest, Luo Wei was lusting after her body. Sorry I'm late. After handing over to the previous clerk, Aoyama Nanami changed into the convenience store uniform, walked over to Luo Wei and said with a smile. Luo Wei greeted him, "Good afternoon, Aoyama-kun." "Good afternoon, Luo Wei, you seem a little different than before." Aoyama Nanami's gaze fell on Luo Wei, a hint of suspicion in it. "It's different, what's different?" Luo Wei asked curiously. Aoyama Nanami's eyes flickered as she carefully examined Luo Wei for a few moments. It seems to be his demeanor. Luo Wei-kun's demeanor is more mature than before, as if he has grown up overnight. "Did something happen, Luo Wei?" Luo Wei was somewhat surprised. "I didn't expect you to have such sharp eyes. You must have encountered some things." "After all, you're a boy. Growing up can happen overnight." Aoyama Nanami paused for a moment, then slowly nodded. "That makes sense." It's as if they accepted this explanation. But Aoyama Nanami could never have imagined that the reason she thought Luo Wei was mature was because the soul in this body had been replaced. An adult corporate slave, a working beast of burden, enters the body of a high school student. Even if someone looks young, their temperament will always change a little. Akiyama Mio and Tanaka Ritsu had some suspicions, but they didn't pay attention to them, even thinking it was just their imagination. After all, they are just high school students. Only Aoyama Nanami, who had accumulated a lot of social experience through working odd jobs, could tell at a glance. This is the difference between a working soldier and a regular high school student. After the minor incident, Aoyama Nanami quickly got back to work. She greeted the endless stream of customers with a bright smile. It's not easy being a working person. Luo Wei sighed softly. Time flew by, and it was time for Luo Wei to get off work. To Luo Wei's surprise, the staff member who was supposed to take over was late, and he still hadn't been seen. This guy probably skipped work. Luo Wei's face darkened somewhat. He actually quite disliked people who were never punctual. Seeing this, Aoyama Nanami couldn't help but say, "Luo Wei, why don't you go back first? I'll wait for him here." Luo Wei waved his hand and said, "No need, I don't have anything to do at home anyway, so I might as well keep you company." Upon hearing this, a blush quickly spread across Aoyama Nanami's face. But she knew that Luo Wei didn't mean it that way, so she quickly suppressed her blush, took out her phone and said, "How about I give him a call?" "Okay." Luo Wei nodded. Aoyama Nanami immediately called the other party, but no one answered. I made several more calls, but no one answered. Luo Wei guessed that something might have happened to this guy. After all, this crossover anime world has so many elements stitched together. Monsters, vampires, mecha, gangsters, superpowers, evil spirits, urban legends. It's practically a chaotic free-for-all. In this kind of world, ordinary people can easily lose their game if they're not careful. Unable to reach her by phone, Aoyama Nanami had no choice but to tell the convenience store owner about the situation. When the boss heard about this, he told Aoyama Nanami not to worry, he would find someone to fill in for Luo Wei right away. About half an hour later, a convenience store employee finally arrived and handed over the work to Luo Wei. Luo Wei finally got off work. After experiencing working at the convenience store, Luo Wei lost interest in the job. "So I took the opportunity to resign from my job when I left work." The boss didn't try to stop Luo Wei, instead he readily agreed. There's a saying that goes, if you don't do it, plenty of others will. These days there are plenty of migrant workers, so there's no shortage of people like Luo Wei. On the contrary, when Aoyama Nanami heard that Luo Wei had resigned, she was quite surprised and couldn't help but ask, "Isn't Luo Wei an international student? Doesn't he need living expenses?" "Why did he resign?" Luo Wei said quite calmly, "Because I've found a new opportunity to make money. How about it? Kingshin, do you want to work with me? I can give you 10 times the salary of a convenience store." Aoyama Nanami was taken aback. 10 times the salary was no small amount. He earns about 800 to 1,000 yen an hour working at the convenience store. 10 times the salary is around 8,000 to 10,000 yen. It's too high, it's really too high. Even employees of large companies don't earn such high salaries. This made Aoyama Nanami very curious. What kind of money-making opportunity had Luo Wei found that made him dare to offer himself such a high salary? Could it be? Suddenly, Aoyama Nanami seemed to remember something and said earnestly, Luo Wei, you can't do some illegal jobs. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei couldn't help but roll his eyes. What was this guy thinking? Did a dimensional demon god like him need to do anything illegal? It's incredibly easy for Luo Wei to make money. Don't worry, it's not illegal work. Our work not only earns money but also helps others. Aoyama Nanami murmured, not only can it make money but it can also help others, could it be? For a moment her face involuntarily turned red. Seeing this, Luo Wei couldn't help but retort, although I don't know what you're thinking, I'm sure you've definitely misunderstood. Is that so? Aoyama Nanami stammered. That's right, that's exactly it. Luo Wei was quite helpless. Are all high school girls these days so imaginative? After a long while, Aoyama Nanami finally calmed down and asked, then can you tell me what our job is? Just as Luo Wei was about to speak, an orange-haired girl walked in from outside the door. This is a very fierce girl. It's ferocious, absolutely ferocious. Luo Wei always thought that Erina Nakiri's figure was already very good, but compared to the fierce-looking girl in front of her, she was still somewhat lacking. More importantly, this fierce-looking girl is actually about the same age as Aoyama Nanami and Nakiri Erina. You can tell at a glance that he's a high school student. But the question is, are all high school students these days so well developed? Could it be because of excess nutrition that it all accumulates in the breasts? When Aoyama Nanami saw that Luo Wei's gaze was drawn to the girl who walked in, she couldn't help but snort. Although she and Luo Wei were not in a romantic relationship, Luo Wei was attracted to the girl while they were talking. Doesn't this indirectly prove that the girl's attractiveness far surpasses his own? Or perhaps she was less attractive than the blonde, burly girl who had just walked in. While that may be true, the problem is that Aoyama Nanami is also a genuine female high school student, okay? Since they are high school students, they naturally care more about this. It's inevitable that people will feel unhappy with Luo Wei's behavior. Luo Wei naturally heard Aoyama Nanami's snort, gave an awkward laugh, and pointed at the orange-haired girl. Didn't you just ask me what our jobs are? I'll tell you now. Actually, our job is to help this girl solve her troubles, or rather, to help people like her solve their troubles. The orange-haired girl who walked into the convenience store naturally overheard the conversation between Luo Wei and Aoyama Nanami. Seeing Luo Wei pointing at her, the orange-haired girl tilted her head in confusion. Anyone would be bewildered if they suddenly saw a stranger pointing at them and saying he would solve their problems. The orange-haired girl was no exception. Trouble me. The orange-haired girl said blankly, but her expression didn't mean she had no worries. In reality, everyone has worries. Naturally, the orange-haired girl also has her own troubles. For example, her breasts are too big and they sway wildly when she walks, which makes her shoulders very sore. But she didn't think that the man in front of her could help her solve this small problem. Aoyama Nanami looked at the orange-haired girl suspiciously, then at Luo Wei. How did you tell that this pretty young lady had something on her mind? The girl entered with a smile on her face and light steps, showing no signs of trouble. At least she herself didn't realize it. Therefore, she had reason to suspect that Luo was talking nonsense. I know that perfectly well. Luo Wei looked at the evil spirits and filth surrounding the orange-haired girl with a smile and couldn't help but laugh. You must be feeling very tired, young lady. Luo Wei walked over and said to the orange-haired girl, even though you haven't done anything, you just feel uncomfortable all over, like something is pressing down on you, right? Although the orange-haired girl couldn't see the evil spirits, they still relentlessly clung to her. This placed a considerable burden on the young girl. Huh, how did you know? The orange-haired girl looked at Luo Wei in disbelief. To be honest, she had been feeling unwell for the past few days. She felt heavy and exhausted, and even after eating, she would get hungry again very quickly. I am indeed quite tired. That's why I came to the convenience store so late at night to buy some food to fill my stomach. Aoyama Nanami was somewhat surprised to see that the orange-haired girl did not deny Luo Wei's idea. This guy actually guessed right. How did he do it? Luo Wei said with a smile, I have a special massage method that can make you feel refreshed, sweep away fatigue, and be yourself again. I wonder if you would like to try it. Really? The orange-haired girl looked at Luo Wei suspiciously. You're not trying to take advantage of me, are you? The orange-haired girl was well aware of just how lethal her figure was. After all, she often saw men looking at her with lecherous eyes as if they wanted to devour her. Luo Wei said, You're overthinking it. You don't think I'd do anything indecent to you in the convenience store, do you? There are security cameras here. The orange-haired girl suddenly realized that she had almost forgotten about this. All right then, if you really know how to massage. The orange-haired girl hesitated for a moment, then agreed. Luo Wei asked Aoyama Nanami to bring over a chair, let the orange-haired girl sit on it, and placed his hands on the orange-haired girl's shoulders to begin massaging her. To be honest, Luo Wei doesn't actually know how to massage, but he can use the power of light to relieve the orange-haired girl's discomfort. Especially when his hand, filled with the power of light, touched the orange-haired girl's shoulder, the evil spirits surrounding her suddenly exploded with loud bangs and vanished into thin air. The orange-haired girl, who had been feeling heavy all over, suddenly felt something. How should I put it? It felt like my whole body was lightened, as if a heavy shackle had been removed, and I relaxed completely from the bottom of my heart. Especially the hands massaging my shoulders, a warm current entered my body, flowing through my limbs and bones, making me feel indescribably light and refreshed. It felt like every cell in my body was cheering. That was so awesome, so incredibly awesome. For a moment, the orange-haired girl couldn't stop. After massaging for 5 minutes, Luo Wei stopped and asked with a smile, "How does it feel?" "Marvelous." The orange-haired girl felt a sense of loss when she sensed that Luo Wei had stopped. When she heard Luo Wei's question, she gave him a thumbs up without hesitation. "I have never seen such a great massage before. It is so worth the price." Luo Wei said with a smile, 500 yuan is a sincere offer. What do you think of this price? Aoyama Nanami could hardly believe his ears. Hey, you only massaged for 5 minutes and you're charging 500 yuan. 100 yuan a minute, that's way too expensive. The orange-haired girl thought for a moment and said, although it's a little pricey, I think it's worth it. As he spoke, he took out 500 yen from his wallet and handed it to Luo Wei. By the way, my name is Yurikawa Hana. May I ask your name? If I'd like to get a massage, where can I find you? You can come to the school to find me. My name is Luo Wei. Looking at the school uniform worn by the orange-haired girl Yurikawa Hana, Luo Wei said, judging from your appearance, you should also be a student at the private Sakura Academy, right? Me too. Huh. Beihichuanhua was taken aback, not expecting that the young man in front of her was from the same school as her. What a coincidence. On the other hand, Luo Wei felt that the name Beihichuanhua sounded familiar. After thinking about it carefully, I finally remembered. Isn't this Yurikawa Hana just a hapless girl with the highest level of yin-yang eyes, and Yatsuya Miko's best friend? I wonder if Yatsuya Miko in this world will be as unlucky as the one in the manga. You should know that onmyoji exist in this world. Miko Yatsuya possesses the highest level of yin-yang eyes, making her fully capable of learning yin-yang techniques, unlike in the original story where she only had yin-yang eyes but lacked any exorcism skills. They could only tremble in fear before evil spirits. Miko Yatsuya in this world must be doing quite well. After all, even the most skilled yin-yang masters may not possess the highest level of yin-yang eyes. Yatsuya Miko is a perfect candidate for learning yin-yang techniques. Yuri Kawana, I remember you. You must have a close friend named Yatsuya Miko, right? What does she do? Oh, you know about Miko. When Beihichuanhua heard Luo Wei mention her best friend, she was quite surprised. In a flash, as if she had thought of something, she couldn't help but ask, young man, you don't happen to have a crush on Jianzi, do you? That's not true. Luo Wei shook his head decisively. These days, female high school students always think about romance in everything they do. Are her hormones really that high? I just want to know what Yatsuya Miko does. Yurikawa said, of course she's a student just like me from the private Sakuragi Academy. So she's just a student. Could it be that Jianzi has another identity? Yurikawa asked curiously. Does she usually exhibit any strange behaviors such as suddenly becoming nervous or trembling for no reason? Beichuanhua thought about it carefully, then shook his head and said, no brother, you're so nervous about seeing Zai and you still say you don't have a crush on her. Luo Wei rolled his eyes, too lazy to bother with this hormone-fueled high school student. However, judging from her performance, it's possible that Yatsuya Miko hasn't awakened her yin-yang eyes yet. It doesn't seem impossible. After all, in the original story, Yatsuya Miko suddenly awakened one day during her high school years. It's not surprising that they haven't awakened yet. After seeing off Yurikawa, who still wanted to ask some more questions, Luo Wei pulled Aoyama Nanami away from the convenience store. How about it? Want to team up with me? I make money faster than working at a convenience store, right? How did you do that? Aoyama Nanami asked curiously. If Yurikawa Hana and Luo Wei weren't strangers, she would have thought that Yurikawa Hana was a plant hired by Luo Wei. They're willing to pay 500 yuan for a 5-minute massage. That's making money way too fast. Luo Wei stretched out his hands in front of Aoyama Nanami and said, how about it? Do you want to give it a try? Before Aoyama Nanami could refuse, he placed his hands on her shoulders and began to massage her. Strands of light flowed from Luo Wei's hands into Aoyama Nanami's body. Aoyama Nanami felt incredibly refreshed, as if she were floating on air, soaking in a hot spring with every pore on her body feeling comfortable. At this moment, Aoyama Nanami finally understood Yurikawa Hana's feelings. Although 500 yen for 5 minutes is expensive, it is definitely worth it because she has never felt so good before, as if she has returned to the womb. He felt completely refreshed. After Luo Wei stopped, Aoyama Nanami felt a sense of loss, as if she was reluctant to see Luo Wei stop like that. It's unscientific, it's just so unscientific. Aoyama Nanami learned massage while working, and she could tell that Luo Wei's massage techniques were extremely unprofessional. You could even say he's an amateur, no, he's a complete novice, but its effects were beyond imagination, simply unbelievable. What exactly is going on? It's very simple. Luo Wei extended his right hand and wisps of faint light bloomed in his palm, illuminating Aoyama Nanami's face. Because during the massage just now, the massage itself was not important at all. The important thing is the power I use, which is an extraordinary power that can nourish the human body. When this power enters the body, it can not only repair the body's damage but also wash away the body's fatigue. That's why you had that feeling just now. Kingshin, I am willing to share this power with you. With this power, you can make money by giving massages, and you can even specialize in massaging the wealthy. These people would agree to pay 1,000 yen or even 10,000 yen per minute for the sake of their health, let alone 100 yen per minute. At that time, you can earn hundreds of thousands or even millions by working just 1 hour a day. It's 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times more than what you're making now. What do you think? Aoyama Nanami was shocked because she knew that what Luo Wei said was absolutely true. For the sake of their health, wealthy people are willing to pay not only 10,000 yuan per minute, but even 100,000 yuan per minute. With this power, her days of becoming rich are just around the corner. But the problem is, why did you choose me? Luo Wei smiled slightly and asked in return, why can't it be you? Aoyama Nanami couldn't help but say, but I'm just an ordinary high school student. This seemingly windfall left her somewhat bewildered and hesitant. I can't believe I've encountered such a wonderful thing. What's wrong with high school students? Can't high school students make big money? What kind of thinking is that? Luo Wei said irritably. Just tell me if you agree or not. I'm only giving you this chance because we're friends. If you really don't agree, then pretend I never said anything. Aoyama Nanami was stunned for a moment. A friend. So that's what it's like, I'm overthinking things. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on her face and she said, since it's a friend's invitation, I have no reason to refuse. Luo Wei smiled and patted her on the shoulder. Very good, from now on, you are my third follower, Aoyama-kun. As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Wei infused Aoyama Nanami with a large amount of light power. Like Erina, Nakiri, and the secretary, she has around 10,000 points. For Lovey, this amount of power was only 1/10,000th of his own, and was not worth mentioning at all. After gaining this power, Aoyama Nanami was able to see the evil spirits walking in the world and was immediately startled. Upon seeing this, Luo Wei told Aoyama Nanami about the filth and the disaster. Fortunately, even vampires exist in this world, and magic and superpowers also exist. So Aoyama Nanami quickly accepted this setting and couldn't help but sigh. It turns out that the world we live in is so dangerous. Although vampires, magic, and superpowers exist, Aoyama Nanami always thought that those things were very, very far away from her, as if they were in another world. But now she finally understands. The extraordinary has always been in this world, lingering right beside you. It's just that I didn't have the ability to see these truths before. Now, with the help of Luo Wei, she has finally seen these truths, which is why she sighed like this. Alright, let's put these things aside for now and talk about the profit sharing. As your god, and you as my believer, shouldn't you offer me sacrifices? Aoyama Nanami thought about it and realized that what he said didn't seem wrong. Isn't it natural for believers to make offerings to their own gods? Seeing that Aoyama Nanami had agreed, Luo Wei nodded in satisfaction and said, whether you treat patients or provide massage therapy in the future, I want 50% of the profits you earn. What do you think, Aoyama? Is 50% too much? I speak cautiously, said Aoyama Nanami. Luo Wei couldn't help but widen his eyes. 50% is too much. How could he not have noticed that Aoyama Nanami with his thick eyebrows and big eyes was actually so greedy? No, no. Aoyama Nanami waved her hands repeatedly, feeling that she had been misunderstood, and quickly said, what I mean is, wouldn't leaving me 50% be too much? My power comes from Luo Waitung, Lord Luo Wei. You only need to leave me 30%, no, 20% is enough. Aoyama Nanami did the calculations, and if it really were calculated at 1,000 yen per minute, even if she gives 80% of the money to Luo Wei, she can still earn 200 yen per minute. this money is more than she earns from working. Even if she gave away 80% or even 90%, she would still feel like she had made a huge profit. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei was both amused and exasperated. Hearing what you're saying, for some reason, I have a feeling that I'm going to be hanged on a street lamp. Taking away 80% of your hard-earned wages all at once, do I look like some kind of heartless capitalist? Aoyama Nanami quickly waved her hands. No, I meant. All right, that's fine then. Seeing that Aoyama Nanami still wanted to say something, Luo Wei decisively interrupted her, saying, offering 50% is my decision, so don't say anything more. Seeing this, Aoyama Nanami had no choice but to shut her mouth, gave Luo Wei a grateful look and whispered something. Thanks. Don't mention it. If you really want to repay me, then make a lot of money. Don't think that just because I'm a god, I can't pay for things in this world. In reality, Luo Wei could have chosen not to pay, but he wasn't that shameless. There's nothing he can do, he's just too thin-skinned. Upon hearing Luo Wei's words, Aoyama Nanami burst into laughter, her laughter as bright and beautiful as 100 flowers blooming in an instant. Don't worry, Lord Luo Wei, I will definitely make a lot of money to support you, Aoyama Nanami assured Luo Wei with a smile. The following day, Luo Wei arrived at school as usual. Before class, he chatted with Ritsu Tanaka and Mio Akiyama, not taking his studies seriously at all. He's already a god, what's the point of studying? I'm studying now so that I can find a better job in the future and support myself. But Lo already has someone to support him. Erina Nakiri and her secretary are responsible for 3 meals a day, and Nanami Aoyama is responsible for daily expenses. Luo Wei believed that it wouldn't be long before he had a lot of money. What's the point of studying? It's utterly pointless. I already suffered the hardship of learning in my previous life, so why should I suffer again in this one? No way. So after starting school feeling a bit bored, Luo Wei simply sneaked out of the classroom and wandered around the school. As for whether anyone could detect that Luo Wei had skipped class, Luo Wei thought it was unlikely. While wandering around the school, Luo Wei actually discovered quite a few interesting people. For example, the restaurant I met in the supermarket yesterday, Yurikawa, is right next to mine. In another class, there was a beautiful girl named Kato Megumi whose presence was unusually weak. Wait, shouldn't she be at Toyonasaki Academy? Luo Wei was very curious. It's worth noting that Toyonasaki Academy does exist in this world, but why would the protagonist of a satirical novel appear at the private Sakuragi Academy? Could this be another change caused by crossover anime worlds? After all, the private Sakuragi Academy is much more famous than Toyonasaki Academy. So it seems there's also Kasumigayaka Utaha in the second year, and is there Iriri in the art club? Out of curiosity, Luo Wei went to visit the second grade. Unfortunately, he didn't see Kasumigayaka Utaha in his second year, which means that this black-stockinged senior is not at the private Sakuragi Academy, but most likely still at Toyonasaki Academy. As for the art club, there isn't a single Iriri. It seems that only Kato Megumi appeared at the private Sakuragi Academy. This episode isn't saying that the plot of The Boring Girlfriend is going to fall apart. Well, it's a crossover anime world after all, so let it happen, it doesn't matter, Luo Wei doesn't care. But Kato Megumi. Should I convert her into my follower as well? Luo Wei stood outside the window, watching Ms. Kato sitting in a chair taking a class, and fell into deep thought. He was pondering what Kato Megumi could do for him after becoming his follower, earn money, provide lunch, or simply be a decorative figurehead. To satisfy my stamp collecting desires. The problem is Lo doesn't have a hobby of stamp collecting. After thinking for a while, Luo Wei finally decided to leave the problem to Kato Megumi to solve. So Luo Wei pushed open the classroom door, went in, took Kato Megumi's hand and pulled her out of the classroom where she looked completely bewildered. No one noticed the entire process. No one noticed anything unusual. After leaving the classroom, Kato Megumi looked at Luo Wei in disbelief. Although her presence was weak, it wasn't that weak. As long as she is willing to talk to others, they can still see her. It's just that when she is silent, she is easily overlooked. But what just happened truly shattered Kato Megumi's worldview. A stranger swaggered into the classroom, casually pulled her away, and no one noticed what happened the whole time. It's absolutely unbelievable and inconceivable. And even if one's presence is weak, what is this man in front of them? He didn't clear his mind before entering the classroom. Why did no one notice his sudden intrusion? So, are you surprised? Luo Wei asked. Kato Megumi nodded. This was no longer just surprise, but utter disbelief and incomprehension. How did you do that? Luo Wei said. It's just a little trick. How about it? Do you want to learn it? Kato Megumi subconsciously shook his head. His presence was already very weak. If he learned this technique, wouldn't his presence become even weaker? She doesn't need that ability. Luo Wei said, my technique can not only weaken your presence but also enhance it, making you the brightest star in the crowd. Would you like to learn it? Kato Megumi's eyes lit up. If you say that, I won't be sleepy anymore. As a teenage girl, she longed to interact normally with people and enjoy the vibrant life of a high school student. Really? Of course it's true, but what? Kato Megumi asked instinctively, not wanting to miss this opportunity. Luo Wei said frankly, as a god, I can make you my follower, grant you great power, and allow you to freely adjust your presence. But believers also have to work for me. Some believers can provide me with 3 meals a day, and some believers can provide me with daily expenses. What about you, Kato Megumi? What can you offer me? This is a test. If your answer satisfies me, I can share my strength with you. If you're not satisfied, then I'm sorry, you will lose this opportunity. Kato Megumi was stunned. Gods, an exam, this seems to be a bit excessive. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer. Although Kato Megumi's face remained expressionless, a hint of anxiety flashed in her eyes. She really didn't want to give up this chance to become a normal person again. Luo Wei saw through it and simply said, how about this? I'll give you 3 days to think it over. Give me your answer 3 days later, which is this Friday. Kato Megumi breathed a sigh of relief. If she had 3 days, she might be able to come up with an answer. Go back now. I'll come back to you in 3 days. Luo Wei waved and sent Kato Megumi back. Kato Megumi felt a blur before her eyes and was back in the classroom, sitting in her seat. It was as if everything that had just happened was just an illusion. She subconsciously looked out the window and immediately saw the boy who claimed to be a god. Luo Wei nodded to Kato Megumi, then slowly left, continuing to be a loafer at school. When lunch break arrived, Luo Wei returned to the classroom and enjoyed a delicious lunch with Tanaka Ritsu and Akiyama Mio. Wow, this smells so good. Where did you buy this bento? However, at that moment, a slightly familiar voice came. Luo Wei turned his head and saw a fierce-looking girl standing in front of him, greeting him. Good afternoon, Luo Weijin. This fierce-looking girl was none other than Yurikawa Hana, whom Luo Wei had met briefly yesterday. Following behind Yurikawa was a girl with black hair and golden eyes. The unluckiest high school student in history, Yatsuya Miko, Luo Wei was both surprised and not so surprised by Yuri Kawaka's arrival. Good afternoon, Yurikawa-kun. Is there something you need? A massage, of course. Yuri Kawana rubbed her shoulders. I don't know why, but when I woke up this morning, my shoulders felt really stiff again, even though they felt fine yesterday. Yesterday, I had a massage. Was it comfortable? As a healthy female high school student, Ritsu Tanaka, upon hearing this conversation, subconsciously thought of something and her face flushed red. Although she felt that things might not be as she imagined, her mind still wandered uncontrollably. The mind is laughing wildly and the will is leaping wildly. My heart felt like it had been kicked hard by a rabbit, pounding so hard it wouldn't stop. Luo Wei ignored Tanaka Ritsu's expression, but instead glanced at Yatsuya Miko standing behind her, only to find that Yatsuya Miko's gaze would occasionally sweep over Yurikawa Hana's shoulder. An evil spirit is sitting on Yurikawa Hana's shoulder, swaggering and showing off to Luo Wei. You can see me, you can see me. Luo Wei smiled, stood up and said, let's go outside to talk. Yurikawa nodded, took Yatsuya Miko's hand and left the classroom. Led by Luo Wei, the 3 of them went up the stairs to the balcony. The evil spirit perched on Yurikawa's shoulder continued to hurl insults at Luo Wei right in the face, saying, you can see me, you can see me. Ah, I can see it, and I can see it very clearly. The evil spirit was taken aback at first, then overjoyed, abandoning Beihichuanhua and pouncing directly on Luo Wei. Luo Wei didn't hold back and slapped him across the face. You dare to attack me right in the face? You must be tired of this, huh? Bump. After a crisp sound, the evil spirit vanished into thin air, completely destroyed by Luo Wei, disappearing from this world. Yatsuya Miko's eyes widened instantly as she stared at Luo Wei in disbelief. On the contrary, Yurikawa looked completely bewildered. What can you see? She had absolutely no idea what Luo Wei meant by what he just said. Luo Wei turned to look at Yatsuya Miko. What is your awakening? Me, it's me. Otherwise, who are you referring to because of me? Luo Wei retorted. Yesterday, last night, Yatsuya Miko replied. Oh ho, you're pretty lucky then. I awakened yesterday and today I've encountered myself. Does this mean all the heroines in this world have a bit of good luck? Yurikawa looked at Luo Wei, then at Yatsuya Miko and asked, what are you two talking about? She turned to look at Luo Wei. Didn't you say you two didn't know each other? Why do I feel like you two are acting suspiciously? You really do have a crush on Jianzi, right? Yatsuya Miko blushed deeply. Luo Wei flicked Beihichuanhua's forehead with his finger. Crushing on you? You're kidding me. We're talking about evil spirits. An evil spirit? Yurikawa rubbed her slightly reddened brow, completely bewildered. Look over there. Luo Wei pointed towards the playground where strange evil spirits were entangled with one student after another. Yurikawa Hana's eyes widened involuntarily. What is that? It's disgusting. Yatsuya Miko was taken aback. Huh, Zaya Ohua, you can actually see. Luo Wei said, I have temporarily granted Yurikawa a sliver of power so that she can see these things. Yatsuya Miko suddenly realized, oh, so that's how it is. Beihechu and Hua turned to her best friend Jianzi, can you see it too? Yatsuya Miko nodded. Luo Wei said, Yatsuya Miko is different from you. You can only see these monsters by relying on my power, but Yatsuya Miko awakened the highest level of yin-yang eyes on her own, so she can see these monsters. The highest level of yin-yang eyes, Jian Zai, is really amazing. Bei Chuanhua was taken aback. This thing sounded very high-end, not good at all. Miko Yatsuya loudly denied it, saying that she didn't want such a thing at all if she could. Bei Chuanhua was puzzled. Wasn't it better for something to be more advanced and powerful? Luo Wei said from the side. The highest level of yin-yang eyes is indeed very powerful, but unfortunately, Yatsuya Miko is just an ordinary high school student. She has neither exorcism skills nor supernatural powers. You can see them, but you can't kill them. More importantly, once these things discover that Yatsuya Miko can see them, they will attack without hesitation and eat her up. Now you should know why Yatsuya Miko said it's not good at all. You can see them, but you can't get rid of them. You can only let them keep bothering you and pretend you can't see them. This in itself is a huge pressure. Once exposed, death is certain. The Huxia people in Yurikawa were stunned. Did they not know that Yatsuya Miko was so dangerous, and I just said those things? Yurikawa Hana quickly pulled Yatsuya Miko into her arms. I'm sorry, Miko, I didn't think before I spoke. Please forgive me, Miko. Yatsuya Miko quickly shook her head. This isn't your fault, Zaya Ohua, it has nothing to do with you. Her ability to see spirits wasn't given to her by Yurikawa Kanem, she awakened it herself. In any case, this matter can't be blamed on Yurikawa Kanem. Yatsuya Miko naturally wouldn't blame her best friend. Yurikawa was overjoyed to see that Yatsuya Miko had forgiven her so easily and kept rubbing her face against Yatsuya Miko's face. Seeing my son is the best thing, I love seeing my son the most. It's a cute girl sticker set, yay. Lo Wei loves watching this kind of scene, who could dislike pretty girls being affectionate. After a while, Yurikawa Hana thought of something, released Yatsuya Miko, and said to Luo Wei, Hey Luo Wei-kun, you're so amazing, you must have a way to help Miko get out of this situation, right? Can? Luo Wei nodded. He was also eager to know what would happen if Yatsuya Miko, who possessed the highest level of yin-yang eyes, accepted his power. Or is it that nothing will happen? Lovey said, however, in exchange, Yatsuya Miko will become my priestess. In Luo Wei's opinion, Yatsuya Miko, who has the ability to see ghosts, is very suitable to be his shrine maiden. This is an existence that is even closer to oneself than believers. Upon hearing these words, Yurikawa Hana and Yatsuya Miko blushed. We're all Japanese, how could we not know what a shrine maiden is? But the next second the two of them realized what was happening. Shrine maidens are beings who serve the gods. If Loki made Yatsuya Miko his shrine maiden, wouldn't that mean Loki is